This is a topic I talked about before. This is why is there something rather than nothing? This is a talk space for existentialism. Why is there something rather than nothing? I definitely have some thoughts, but I don't have any answers. I'm interested in hearing if people do have answers. Intelligent physics people, people with theories about consciousness, people who have assertions about God. Maybe it was just by chance. Maybe this is a simulation. Maybe solipsism is true. Maybe the universe is brute, necessary. Actually, that's my favorite one. Maybe that's a math question. Maybe the mystery is better than anything else. Why is there something rather than nothing? Rather than nothing. Hello, I just went live. Oh, passing through. I just started, just like right now, I pushed the button to go live. So if you're seeing this, go ahead and tap on through. This is just a talk space. I am interested in people coming up and telling me if they think they have the answers. I do offer challenges to perspectives. If someone thinks they have answers, I will challenge you. You're welcome to try to convince me. I'm pretty educated in most of these categories, but I don't think I'm smarter than any experts in these categories. I do want to entertain what other people think. I've been rotating through some other topics throughout the week. There was some stuff in the news that I let take over my live yesterday. Before that, a lot of the conversation was theology. Someone wanted to come up and prove their religious perspective. That's fine. Other than that, someone else wanted to come up and prove their theological perspective, philosophy perspectives. Those are all fine. If there's anyone who wants to explore like simulation or anything weird answers to this question, why is there something rather than nothing is the question behind most sciences and philosophies and worldviews. And I love it. It's super interesting to me. I'm a very curious person. Lily Bean, let's come on up. Hello, you're connecting. Once you connect, are you 18 plus?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there's going to be an echo because my headset did not connect. Let me see if I can't make that happen. Otherwise, it's going to give us weird feedback. Okay, can you talk again?
Yeah, hey, man.
No, it didn't work. But while I figure that out, do you have like an answer? Like, do you have a perspective on why there's something rather than nothing?
I mean, kind of, yes.
Okay, my audio fixed, so we're
maybe
good.
my own story will kind of open things up to discussion, which I find
Sweet.
interesting.
Love it. Yeah, go for it.
All right, so I grew up Christian until about 14 years old. Going to church was just being dragged with family. I've never actually read a single page of the Bible. I was just hanging out with friends. I've been agnostic ever since. Until a few years ago, where I got heavily into, I guess, learning about NDEs. I'm sure you're familiar with it in some regard.
I've heard a bunch of stories. Yeah, I've heard a bunch of stories, but I don't have a lot of personal conclusions on them. So yeah, go ahead. I'd love to hear about it.
So for me, I don't know anything about any religion. I haven't read a single page of the Bible. I'm not a Bible thumper. That's all craziness to me. But I kind of thought that there was a biological reason to explain these NDEs that would make sense to me. And the more I looked into it, the more I proved myself wrong. I even had ego death over it, which was crazy.
That's interesting. What was your hypothesis, if you wouldn't get more specific? If you said, I actually sympathize with that you thought there was a biological reason for NDAs. I'm under that assumption. I think there might be biological explanations, but maybe you've done more research than me. I haven't.
So this is kind of like I'm trying to compact the last 6-7 years of me doing research.
Yeah, go ahead. That's good.
So bear with me. I just smoked a little bit too.
Nice. Good. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So I originally thought that they were caused by DMT, which is called dimethyltryptamine. And it's commonly pointed to as a reason to cause these, hallucinations. uh, because it's an incredibly powerful psychedelic. Very interesting. And then I came to the research done by a doctor by the name of Dr. Bruce Grayson, who is in charge of a medical division at the University of Virginia. They have about a 60-person team looking into NDEs and various research and studies. So they have an entire server that's public to be looked at. It's called DOPS, DOPS, and it's all online. You can go to it. And I started reading their books, and his book came out called After, and it's specifically a medical review upon NDEs that talked about DMT and asphyxiation and the commonalities of NDEs. It just kind of blew my mind as I was reading this. So, and then please interrupt me if you have any questions or if I sound
No,
crazy.
so far this is an interesting topic. I mean, you already looked farther into it than me, and I did kind of stop my assumptions at DMT. So whatever it is you discovered after the fact, but also I brought up Michael. He's someone who's been on my panel before, so he's going to hang out. Michael, if you want to chime in, just let me know. But yeah, go ahead and continue.
So
Certainly, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, please continue.
yeah, thanks, man. So I'm reading over these studies and these books published by, again, it's the University of Virginia. They're accepted and credited in numerous studies and things, right? So why would they be putting millions of dollars into this group for the last, I think, 40 years? Craziness. And then there's other websites called IANDS, IANDS. I don't know the acronym. And another one's called NDER, so Near Death Experience Research Foundation. And they're both .orgs and stuff like that. So I started going through the reasons: DMT, asphyxiation, chemical concoction of a death trigger of some sort, prior beliefs due to NDEs, stuff like that, to explain this away. And every turn I made, everything was proving me wrong. Everything was saying that if, again, we don't have a real-world example of someone taking a cocktail of drugs in real life and having their brain or experience crank up in clarity.
So are you saying that's why it proved the biological theory wrong, because it wasn't reproducible with DMT? Is that what you're saying?
Not that it's not reproducible. Some little tiny aspects are that again claims DMT will produce a psychedelic experience similar to LCD, or you know which one I'm talking about.
I do, yeah.
Okay. So there's similarities, feeling a oneness, openness, possibly meeting a spirit of some sort. NDEs takes it from a 10 to a 30. And this is actually upon death. And then again, there's not enough DMT measured within the human body to cause such a trip that a recreational user would take. Stuff like that. So I wanted to go back to NDEs. I learned that those that have it are in a severely compromised brain state, whether through heart attack, accident, death of some sort, overtaking of medication, you got it. And even through surgeries, people have been on memory inhibition drugs like, what's that one for surgery that you take?
Anesthesia?
Anesthesia, there you go, yeah. So people are having these powerful NDEs through anesthesia, and what they're all describing, and it's just, the number blew my mind. It's millions. They actually have hundreds of thousands of people show up to these NDE events that are handled in various cities once a year. And the last one was in Chicago not too long ago. I work downtown. They took up every parking spot talking about this shit. So what they describe is naturally seeing a tunnel, seeing light, seeing dead loved ones, feeling an all-empowering love around them. Clarity cranked up to like a 30, like I said, where they experience an out-of-body experience. They see colors that they've claimed to never have seen before. They're able to communicate telepathically, that they could see everything in a 360-degree arc, that reality becomes expansive, where they feel a oneness of download of information from a all-empowering consciousness that they talk about. It's absolutely blowing my mind that they're experiencing these things. Again, you assume that it's going to be an hallucination, but when it comes to an hallucination, oftentimes the memories are fragmented, that it's not life-altering, that it's, there's chaos. If I hold my breath, I don't expect to ace the ACTs. So they're explaining things that don't make sense. They're not coherent with what you would expect in bodily death. And there's enough of them that it's now drawing a lot of attention. It came to 15%.
Let me ask about this, because if NDEs, so and correct me if I'm wrong on what I'm assuming about what you're suggesting. So if NDEs prove maybe an afterlife, which I'm assuming that's what you're saying, then is that what you're saying, that NDEs do prove an afterlife?
It's crazy to say. I suppose it does, because they're describing a reality beyond a reality. It's what they call it. So yeah.
What do you think is the conclusion there? So if there is something beyond maybe this physical consciousness, because are you suggesting that there's something maybe, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think what I'm saying is I think consciousness feels natural, and maybe if an NDE afterlife stuff, could that be natural, or what are your conclusions if an afterlife seems plausible? What then for you?
So for me, again, I've done years and years and years of listening to this stuff. It comes down to purpose. Why? Going back to your original question and why I bring this up, why is there something rather than nothing? Right?
Yeah. And yeah, if you bring up purpose, that's interesting too.
Yeah. So what these people, again, millions of them are saying, is that consciousness has been given to experience everything that there is, and the purpose is love, to love each other's souls. And we all return back to this after. There is no hell. It's explained to most of religion, if not all of it, is a lot of BS. It's more so the experience of the soul to have in a human body than the religion is true. And that,
if that's true, I mean, I don't know if that kind of deflates the afterlife concept. If you say is it a bodily experience, or is there something after the body is dead?
Well, you having a subjective experience is true. You have a consciousness, therefore, and we all have consciousness, and that you can say is the soul. We're in an avatar, a body living a human experience. After your death, it's explained that you have your life review to get more of an evaluation. Could you have been nicer here? Were you mean there? Until you plan your next life for the everlasting growth of a spiritual being trying to learn and expand its knowledge. That's how it's explained. Isn't this crazy?
It is fun. So there's a couple people in the comments who want to come up, and I think one of them wants to challenge you. The other one has some thoughts. Do you mind if we expand the conversation?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. Let me take a second. I'm going to introduce them, and I'm going to also let you land a point before I give them the mic. This guy, and then I thought I got the other guy up too. Okay, so let me just check real quick that they're 18 plus. Both of you guys, are you 18 plus?
Yes, I'm 22.
Okay, and then
Yep, I'm 28.
All right, Lily Bean, do you wanna land a point, or go ahead or we can let them chime in?
Oh yeah, go for it. I've been talking for a while.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I think it was John that requested first. Do you want to chime in and then, but only briefly, and then we can let Phoenix chime in?
Yeah, I just wanted to praise Lily being here for what he's saying. I think it's quite brilliant. And I'd like to add, um, what are we, if not the universe experiencing itself?
Exactly.
Patterns of
That's how
energy
it's
which could
explained.
come from outside of the universe. That you could be that. I mean, you want me to
But
go on?
it's, yeah, the multiverse, yeah,
No,
absolutely.
not a
So what's
multiverse.
connecting it all?
No. Energy does not need to rely on this universe or any other universe. It can be independent of the physical realm we understand now.
What do you mean by that,
Electrons
Phoenix?
in your brain. Now, an avatar is something that contains the soul of another being. If you say you're an avatar, you're saying that you are not a person unto yourself, but you are a machine
hold
being
on,
controlled
hold
by something else.
on. Maybe I'm using the wrong word.
Okay, so avatar, whatever, you got a
the
concession there then?
consciousness is driving the body, but they're two separate entities. Think of it that way.
Okay, so then you are arguing that people are avatars, but they're not people unto themselves. They're a body possessed by something else.
What do you mean when you say avatars, Phoenix? What are you referencing? Is it? Are you referencing something
I'm
Lily Bean
referencing
said?
the traditional definition that an avatar is a vessel or body controlled by another spirit or god.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Hindu roots.
I like
I
that.
think.
So,
I didn't hear what you said, John. What was that?
I think that harkens back to sort of the Hindu roots of avatars. It's adjacent.
Like Advaita Vedanta, kind of Brahman and the Atman kind of concept?
Yeah, I
But again,
think
that goes into
so.
the concept of the universe experiencing itself, which is why I wanted to lean into the concept of postmodernism, which seems to be what people are focusing on a bit here. Is there a familiarity with postmodernism here?
I'm not super familiar. Maybe you can lay that down for us real quick, Phoenix.
All right. So modernism is supposed to be the establishment of fact through like industry, through measurements and things like that, so that we can have a truth, right? A universal truth. Now, postmodernism, it says that, okay, since we have all these measurements, people can have different interpretations of the measurements. And so you get postmodernism. So it's not the truth we share, but it would be your truth or my truth based on the interpretations of the measurements that we show. So do you guys ascribe to anything within postmodernism where it comes from your perception of the data that we've collected?
I don't think I do. I mean, I would say I'm more of like an empiricist, but I do like spirituality, but I don't think I could land on that.
Have you ever used the term my truth or your truth and used it in a serious way?
I do reject that. No, I wouldn't. No, I don't think that's what truth is, that the word is meant to be used to imply. I mean, truth is a value of propositions. So if you make a proposition, I think it can be analyzed, and then whatever the truth is non-subjective.
Right, but then the objective would have to be basically a consensus of that data.
I don't think consensus matters. I think that truth is independent of, like I said, I don't think truth is subjective. So consensus would be more of like a subjective concept. If everyone agreed, it doesn't increase the likelihood of truth.
Well, if everyone jumps off a bridge, it doesn't mean you should jump off a bridge too. I understand that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, but I guess, yeah, that's why I would hope that there would be a rational consensus, but you're making a good point. It sounds like, yes, you are an empiricist. The issue that I'm getting is like, I see a lot of people where they'll respect others and they'll say, oh, yep, well, it's just your truth. I reject that completely, and I reject any concept of that, because I've seen loads of people accepting individual truths, and it's not just disagreements, it comes to like physical conflicts, unfortunately. And that's why I'm so against it. We have to agree on something at the end of the day.
What do you mean by that, actually? Yeah, go ahead, Michael, and then I want to ask Phoenix a clarifying question.
What he's referencing. There has to be an objective fact that we can all point to, and yes, that exists. That tree's there, like as an example.
Well, that's a pretty easy example. I guess another example is, did Iraq have WMDs, and is Iran developing WMDs? Well, my truth is this, and someone else's truth is that. Right now, there are Americans, getting turned to hamburger because we can't agree for whatever reason.
Yeah,
See what I mean?
That's useless. Yeah.
Right.
So
I
we need
think
to come to the
that's.
truth, and we need to make a decision based on the truth.
I think we would need to have a proposition, and then we can analyze the truth value of it. So I think in that case, that's very pragmatic. That's a good example, and I think that we can analyze facts and come up with propositions. So maybe you can tell me if you agree or disagree, but I think something like the scientific method could be applied, where we have thoughts and propose things, and then analyze them, and then find a truth value, and then know what to do.
And I guess I would add like an assumed goal to that as well. So the example I gave, my goal would be to preserve American lives and avoid conflict where it's not necessary. That would be the two goals that I would go for.
Yeah, I think that becomes yes, I agree. If we want to talk about geopolitics, I think that question becomes hard to answer the more you zoom out, because if you're trying to solve immediate conflict, or if you're trying to solve sort of a longer standing tension, then the answer could be different.
Well, and here's the reason why we're getting different personal truths in a postmodern setting is because there will be Mossad informants that will say, well, our truth is that, Iran is going to make WMDs. They haven't, but they're gonna, right? So that's their truth, and then we act upon their truth instead of an objective truth. And unfortunately, people are getting hurt right now who don't have to be hurt. And we actually did have a plan during Obama. We had the deal where they wouldn't enrich their material or whatever.
Wait, hold on a second. If I may, how does this relate to NDEs and that's something rather than nothing?
This relates because we need to determine the truth so we can act in a way that is practical and actually affects the world.
Yeah, let's bring it back. Maybe
a minute ago.
Okay.
maybe you can tell us,
Let's
Phoenix.
use my avatars for a second.
Yeah, maybe you can tell us a bit more. Let's bring it back to the truth, because I think we were talking about how to identify truth is why we started talking geopolitics.
Yeah. So, well, I think we agreed we need to kind of think about goals, maybe what some people would want within their goal, but I think there's something universal in it, despite what someone's perception or opinion is based on the raw data, which is why people, of course, lie about the data.
I think that's
There's emotion factor in this.
that was a few people.
Like
Hold
love.
on. Love.
So,
Love is
so
the answer.
anyways,
Love.
the avatar is the car and your consciousness is the driver. We're all the consciousness driving the car.
Yeah, actually, that was more interesting. What, Phoenix, what was your response to that when you were bringing that up?
Oh, we're talking about avatars? No, I think that the soul is linked to the body. I don't think it's separate.
It is.
Do you think that there's
You're linked.
also it's interlinked with all souls?
No.
I think that's ego. I think there's
Why would that be
ego.
ego?
There is the individual soul, right? That reacts and has thoughts
John,
and
if I may.
reactive emotion. And then
John, if I
there's
may. How is
I
it
don't know, I'm not
egotistical for me to say that I am not linked to every single person? I am just a person unto myself.
I get that, but how? I mean, that's opposite of what is seen with these NDEs, which we're having a hard time explaining biologically.
I also
So-
didn't
You're talking about the experiences people have. Yeah, I passed away. I flatlined. I know what that's like. I know exactly what the process is and why it had
So,
happened. the way it does.
as it's measured, according to these investigatory people,
These anecdotes that you like, okay.
15% of the human, or those that are resuscitated, will have an NDE. I mean, again, you are part of the 85%. That makes sense.
No.
Why are the other 15% having anything?
I am not part of the 85%. I am part of the 15.
So you went to this reality that's beyond reality, saw colors you've never seen before, and an all-loving God? That's what they're describing. That's
never
15%
happened to
of the
anyone.
population.
It will never
That's-
happen to anyone.
Again, that's 15% of the population. Research done by these various
Well,
institutions.
Do you
Who am I
ever
to
heard
say
of
that they're
machine
wrong?
elves? Son, have you ever heard of machine elves?
No.
Because this is very important to this reality that you're thinking of. Or you call it a reality. And it's interesting because you said it feels more real than reality, didn't you?
That's what they claim.
Oh, but you don't claim that.
I've never had one.
Okay, so what do you think about that claim of it feeling more real than reality?
Again, I believe them because
Okay, so you're in support of that concept. Do you know what happens when dimethyltryptamine affects the mind? What people see?
He was just going over this. That's
Yeah,
funny.
isn't that funny, Apostate? Or,
Yeah.
or whatever your name's. Yeah,
Apostate. That's okay.
Apostate. There you go.
I
Sorry.
liked how you
Little-
said it,
little-
though. That was more
little buzzing.
fancy. Yeah, it was
Yeah, I'm a
good.
little buzzing right now. So that was actually the funny thing. I was explaining to everyone else that I was agnostic for 18 years. I thought it was all BS. The very first thing I looked into was DMT.
Okay, and what did you get out of that?
Well, number one, there's no study to show where the DMT is actually produced in the body. Number two, it's explained that there's not enough DMT within the body to trigger a psychedelic response. Number three, there's no actual death signal. The body doesn't actually send out a stimulus of chemicals of some sort to tell the body it is dying. That doesn't exist. And then at four, this dump has to happen at such a rate to happen within about 20 seconds. The average heart attack and drop of EEG readings happens within 12 to 20 seconds of heart attack. And it has to penetrate the drugs you're given to surgery people. I forgot that word. So there's a lot to say that it's likely not that. Because there's so many other things happening that the claims are being made from these people and patients.
So you don't know the effects of dimethyltryptamine then? Or you just don't think it can affect people?
Oh, it absolutely does affect people. People take
Yeah,
it
how does it affect people?
recreationally. Yeah.
Yeah, how does it affect people recreationally?
Again, they do feel similar effects. They feel a oneness. They feel lights and geometric shapes and shit like that.
I did not feel that.
Can I elaborate on that oneness?
Go for it, man.
Because I'm sorry I'm circling back so far, but there's that oneness, that interconnectedness that exists within love and empathy is that's the interlinking I was referring to earlier of all people and all things.
That's deeply
Wherever
arrogant.
wherever the energy for that connection comes from, I think is divine. That's just my personal perspective.
Phoenix, why do you disagree?
Because no one can meet every single person. And if you claim that you do, you're claiming that you're greater than everyone else. Because most people will say, I can't really know everyone. But we have someone here claiming, oh yes, I can know everyone and I can have this connection to everyone. That is deeply egotistical.
It's not that you know everyone, it's that you have the latent ability to be able to understand everyone. Even if you don't agree with them, you can understand them.
Yeah, a lot of times it's explained as an analogy. You are the drop of water that has left the ocean. You're just returning back to the ocean. I know it's kind of basic, but that's one of the better ways to explain it.
So again, it seems like you're claiming that my body and my soul aren't my own.
Your soul is.
No, I
Not your
never
body.
made that claim.
I
I just said there's a part of your soul that exists as an interconnected part of all that is. And then there's also an ego, there is a self, and there's a corporeal self as well. That's physical self, emotional self, and spiritual self. A trinity, 3 parts.
Do you believe that's true, John, or do you think that's like a good metaphor?
And here's where you're gonna laugh at me really hard, is that's my truth. That's what I believe to
Oh
be
no!
how the world works.
Would you feel more comfortable saying that you believe it and not saying it's a truth?
Yes, it's definitely devotional. It is faith-based more than empirically proven, but I think it makes sense.
I don't want to be cruel to you. Is it fair to say that you've experienced things that make you feel this way and feel connected to this perspective?
I have a lot of great friends.
I'd like to cite some empirical research regarding this,
Oh, please.
if I may. So there is a cognitive scientist by the name of Donald Hoffman, who works from the University of California. His central premise of his research is that human perception does not reveal objective reality. Instead, it provides a species-specific user interface designed solely for survival. His point being that perception costs a lot of biological energy, and so therefore the chances that we see reality as it is very slim. What he argues is that evolution by natural selection drives true perception to extinction because organisms that see reality as it actually is are outcompeted by those that perceive only what is necessary to survive and
That's fair.
reproduce.
Oh,
I can
absolutely.
connect this to NDEs. Let's see.
I'll do you one better too. The 2023 Nobel Peace Prize was given to the I think proof that local realism isn't real. Something it's something like in that
Do you know
terms.
who Nobel was, man?
What did you say,
Not
Phoenix?
the actual man. No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please continue, but then I'll talk about Nobel in a second.
Sure. So Donald Hoffman, he relates this to NDEs. He relates his research on conscious realism to near-death experiences by framing them as potential evidence that consciousness survives the dissolution of the physical avatar, which is what you guys were talking about. Because his theory posits that space-time and the brain are merely species-specific user interfaces. The cessation of brain activity or clinical death doesn't necessarily entail the end of consciousness, meaning the way we perceive space and time in reality is specific to our species and how our senses have evolved. So near-death experience may be an expansion of perception and thus
Into a
seeing
world
more of
that's not
objective
connected
reality.
to with general perception as we tend to know it. Is that correct?
Expanded perception, beyond what we have currently.
And I think that's fair, but that still wouldn't exactly fulfill what an avatar is. You could say that the corporeal body is a vessel for some sort of energy or system that exists within it. Then, of course, the vessel's not working properly. And
Like I said, you, the consciousness, is driving the car. The car will break down eventually, but you as consciousness is forever. You just keep getting a new car.
I don't mean to be like nihilistic here, but how much of the like information of the personal subjective mind is going to survive the death process if the conscious experience does sort of continue?
can I comment on that? Because
Great question.
doctors are very concerned about me, and I'm lucky. I do worry sometimes, but they talk to me about brain damage. I've been okay so far, but they say, hey, you've got to quit, playing games with some of the things you're playing games with. I'm like, okay, I will. But yeah, no, that's a very serious thing because my identity or who I am is going to change when, my brain and my body are not able to support me, specifically my brain. You could get my arms and legs off, but I would still have my taste in, chocolate pudding or whatever, right?
So it's explained with these NDEs. Again, I'm referencing the millions that are out there all saying the same thing in a lot of ways. 100%. Absolutely every memory you've ever had survives, on top of remembering all your past lives as well. And then you share a mind with the almost hive mind of love and knowledge.
Okay. So then you're saying that you're not an individual.
You are. And you are
You're
a part
not,
of the collective.
because you'd be part of a greater individual, a greater
Why do
system.
they have to be
They're
mutually
both true.
exclusive?
Yeah, they're both true. It
If I cut
doesn't
off
make
my
any
finger and throw it across the room, it's still me.
it
No,
doesn't
it's
make any
not. Your
sense to
body-
me
your
on this
finger has
planet
no
in this
connection
body,
to
but
that.
that's what they're all explaining.
Is this the egg theory? Is this different than the egg theory? Where
Yeah.
do you know what I'm,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
it-
talking about? Lily Bean, you know what I'm
I
talking
know.
about?
I love that little
It's like a
Kyrgyzstan
Kyrgyzstan.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Exactly.
that one. No, it's explained that you, as a conscious being, it just continually grows and gets higher and higher in job and responsibilities of ever expanding knowledge and growth. So as you started as a small soul, you've continually grown up, and now we are experiencing humanity in the school of Earth.
See, this is really interesting because I was called egotistical. but I don't think I'm going to ever understand Earth and its complexity and be part of a greater collective where my identity would outrank others and I would have control or whatever within that system.
Well, you don't outrank anyone. I mean, the whole purpose of Earth is explained that it gives you opportunity outside of perfection.
Oh, beyond
To,
perfection, right?
well, when
You
they
see why it's
describe as
tough for me to
home,
like
is
hear about
perfect.
me being egotistical from others who talk about being above perfection when I don't say that I'll ever be above perfection.
I get it, man. Don't take it personally. Just someone who doesn't understand you, they said something, whatever.
Oh,
I
but you
think
understand why that's tough for me because
and most
I am
people
not
don't
going to
think
say
like
that I'm
this.
perfect.
100%. This is me going from agnostic for 18 years, and it took 7 years for me to actually get to this point and like I believe in them.
So I kind of take issue with the idea that that there's like a learning or a kind of specific objective in the case of like a kind of a collective consciousness, because how would, and this is kind of my previous question of how would the information persist? If I learn something, what does that mean? What does that mean if I resolve at death, return to some kind of sort of collective consciousness, and then like what information transfer is there? Because if memory is just in the body and that just rots in the ground, what am I learning?
Well, again, sorry,
Can I say
if
about
you
this?
have
I
a
think people discard how clever humans really are. And there's also been fantasy settings where this has been like recorded. And now we're kind of actually doing it in real life. But the reason why I bring all that up and it sounds strange is because we do record these things in books and computers so we can learn, but we have to be connected to the world we know now. But it's a fair point. How can you have any knowledge or advancement if you're passing away and you don't have any of the material, the gray matter that helped you to absorb it in the first place?
John says it's love.
But it's not love that wrote the books. It was the people knowing how to write.
I think it's outside of empirical skill. Like that's the hardest thing. How do you empirically explain love? Like more than reducing it down to chemical reactions in the brain. Like how the ability for each of us to be able to walk in each other's shoes and have empathy. I don't know. I feel like there's something divine about that. And again, that might be more devotional than truth based, but
John, have you ever done any drugs? Like I
yeah,
have.
Let's use
yeah.
code. Let's
I've
use
done
code
mushrooms.
words. No, code words.
Oh,
TikTok
All
code
right,
words.
so we've done these substances.
yeah.
It's very similar, isn't it? When if someone really loves you and you're in love, having a great time. It's similar to using these substances. So I don't understand
No,
why.
love is very different from addiction.
I didn't say addiction. Because we're having this surge of dopamine in our brains, and that's fine, dude. But it's not as sustainable when it's some sort of substance. It's much more sustainable when, your wife kisses you in the morning and says, have a good day.
I don't know. I don't think I can understand the parallel between using substances and being in a loving relationship.
I might be
I mean,
able
You
to.
talked about a reaction, right? Or a using this, and you're worrying about addiction. Okay. You don't need to worry about that when it's sustainable and it can be balanced naturally. But this is, I want to ask you, John, have you ever been in a relationship that's ended and have you ever felt loss from something like that?
Yeah.
Right. It's very similar to a withdrawal on a substance.
Phoenix, are you saying that love is a chemical?
Well, that's part of it, yeah.
but I don't love sugar. There are differences that do not incorporate the dopamine hit, though. There's even events that wouldn't trigger, but I'm still doing the act of love. Love is also deeper for many reasons of your children, and goes beyond biologically.
How deep is it in your biology? How deep is love?
I find it to be the meaning of everything.
Right.
Amen,
So
brother. I'm gonna go to sleep. Good night,
down
y'all.
on the- guys,
It's
hear me
been
out
good to
real
have
quick.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Go ahead,
It was my
I
Phoenix.
just
pleasure.
got to say this quickly. When people are down on their luck, a hit of a substance can be enough to pull them out of it. I'm not saying it's healthy, but that can be everything, and that can save lives.
Well,
In
I
a
have.
weird, twisted way,
Let
it
me have a
works that
thought
way.
on that because I think that there's a different kind of feeling that maybe what you're talking about, maybe what came to my mind. Some substances give you, rush of certain chemicals and they kind of fade over the couple hours, but there are some that give you actual euphoria and something that is more cleansing and arrives you in a mental place that is more, I think it was Lily Bean that talked about having ego death, and I'm not sure exactly what you were referencing, but if you have certain kinds of ego death, you might feel this euphoric love that to me kind of feels more like what like a religious person might call this other kind of love. Oh shoot, they have their own word for it and I just lost it. Not like eudaimonia. There's something kind of love that I think Christians talk about it all the time, which is kind of a general kind of love, like a feeling of
I'm a
general
Christian,
love.
and is it agape?
Agape, that's it. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I was going to say
Thank you.
Eucharistic, maybe, but
No, agape was the word I was looking for. And I think that
okay.
comes sort of euphorically in some of the more ego death kind of substance experiences, like the shamanic experiences. But I'm not sure if that's love, although I do think it might
This is why I
inform.
think it's important to bring up goals, though. They're trying to get to that, right? And so when they do these substances, it will help them to achieve that. But that's what they're seeking. So that's one of the reasons why I'm afraid of that type of thing, because I'm afraid of my bias.
What do you mean your bias?
Well, my bias, if I want to meet Yahweh and I do some substances, and then all of a sudden I see something that I think is like Yahweh, that would confirm my bias, but that doesn't necessarily mean my bias was correct.
Are you saying Yahweh? What do you mean? What are you saying?
Oh, yeah, I'm using like the Hebrew, but yeah, the same God.
You're talking about having like a deity experience?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
know
so
if
we're
that's
really
love,
trying to
but
go back to NDEs, right?
kind of. Yeah,
Well, I was
I
talking
like.
about using like dimethyltryptamine.
I think these are similar. Yeah, I think those are similar topics because I mean the implications of believing that this has sort of cosmic implications does sort of address the question of like why existentialism generally, like, does it give answers to nature of reality or does it give metaphors?
For what I'm trying to explain, it's the nature of reality.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. Maybe you can. Yeah, I think you were. I liked what you were saying. We brought up a panel. We kind of explored it. Maybe you can take us through how you take your understanding of NDEs to how you take that to implications about reality itself.
Um, so I guess you had mentioned that we do have those crazy NDE studies that you just read off, and I did point to the Nobel Peace Prize from 2 or 3 years ago about the local realism. It's almost as if this great consciousness is rendering the reality for us, and due to the particle wave duality, it doesn't actually collapse into a particle until it's rendered by the consciousness for us.
Wait, what are you
And
saying?
so
Say that
they're
again.
explaining it as this is one big hologram. Yeah.
Are you talking about the young slit experiment of how photons seem to behave differently under observation?
Yeah, I'm touching
That's
on
been
that.
debunked.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about Nobel, he invented dynamite, and then he saw the destruction it was causing around the world, and he wanted to do something to remedy that. So he basically put out a prize for anyone who would, do something like literature or science, medicine, and that's how the Nobel Peace Prize was born. A lot of people forget that, but if we really think of what the Nobel Peace Prize is and why it was made, it's kind of dark. It's kind of sad.
Okay.
The reason why I bring this up is so many people like to think that the world is so shiny and happy. And I'm not against it becoming shiny and happy, but when we look at the reality of what it is, we have a lot of work to do. That's why I'm a little bit curmudgeonly.
I agree. But again, these guys did some work. It's peer review. They won the prize. Got to count for something.
What do you
Well,
do with
yeah,
that
what I
information?
count for was being critiqued, and it found some things were true, but we still need to look into photons and how they behave, because the actual data was, we didn't have the correct observational tools at the time.
Okay.
Phoenix, are you talking about NDEs or are you talking about the double slit?
Oh, I'm talking about the double slit experiment.
And I think that came up because Lily Bean, you had made a comment about observing and collapsing reality. Is that right?
Yeah, the quote unquote God, many people call it source, renders reality for us. It's all a simulation.
I actually don't mind a simulation theory. Unfortunately, like I can't quite escape it, but it feels like solipsism. So I don't like it.
It's explained. Only what you see and experience and feel is the simulation, but you as a consciousness is real. Again, all these people that have their NDEs and go to the after explain it to be a reality beyond reality. Like it's more expansive. It's cranked to a 30.
How much of that is happening in the body versus outside? Because our body receives the sense information, and then we have a subjective experience in our body. Even our visual cortex is a recreation of what the body is sensing. So we already have that duality.
Absolutely.
So how does that fold in? Yeah, how does that fold into what you're describing, Lily Bean?
Well, for me, I had to look at it and say, is this really happening? I keep having to go back just because it's such a crazy subject. And these people are having these experiences where consciousness should be turned off or death is too quick. And then what were we saying about how it relates to reality?
Because I was thinking, when I think about NDEs and when I think about simulation and hologram, the holographic universe theories and things like that, I think it's all the same thing because of how we experience reality as a human consciousness. We experience a recreation of reality already. So our subjective experience really is a hologram created by our mind on our behalf. But it does include some inaccuracies, but the reality beyond us, like what we're seeing, is a recreation of what's there. So there's already a separation between the subjective experience and physical reality. So if I'm unaliving and I'm having an NDE, the DMT thing really still makes sense to me, that my mind is being flooded and panicking and sort of recreating the sort of a dreamscape of what I'm convinced already is true. Do you disagree?
I disagree with the DMT theory. I just personally have found that not to hold as much water as many people claim.
What if because I do agree. I think the DMT thing is overblown because you did make a point earlier that I agreed with where there's not that much released. And we don't have as much as someone takes for a recreational experience. But if you just have a little bit, and if you are in sort of a dream headspace because your body's turning off, wouldn't that be enough?
Well, for me, again, I've done a lot of research into this, and it's not just, yes, every single point brought up about NDEs and their claims being made will have a counterpoint. I'm not saying it is 100% not DMT. It is very unlikely to be DMT due to all the other factors that either we have or have not talked about. It's a lot of information.
Hold on a second. Do you think I was actually being attacked by demons then? I threw off 15 paramedics and police officers trying to hold me down as I was literally blacked out. Okay, I went to the hospital, flatlined. The nightmare continued. I had to be put in an induced coma for 3 days. And know what the weirdest thing is? I went out on Good Friday and I woke up on Easter. Really strange. I don't know why that happened. But when I woke up, I had bruises everywhere. I had bitten through my own lip. Okay, so was I actually like fighting demons? Do I deserve to go to hell because of what I saw, because of the chemicals in my brain?
Okay, so, well, not the chemicals in your brain.
Yes,
so
dimethyltryptamine.
I understand you're going to keep pointing to that. But how it's explained through these NDEs or people, the claim is made that 90% will have a good NDE, the loving the gods, meaning your past loved ones, stuff like that. The other 10 will either have an uncomfortable or hellish experience. Whether they are revived and brought back or the vast majority is saved once they turn to good.
My heart was operated artificially for, I think it was like 8 hours, and then it was able to beat on its own. So when you say revive, what does that mean to you?
Do you come back to full and complete consciousness? Are you able to? Are you
Like I said, it was 3 days that I had to be in an
again?
induced
I
coma.
I can't say to your subjective experience. Maybe it was real.
I experienced nothing. I was in a coma.
I understand that your body was in a coma, as it's explained.
But you said you
I'm
saw
sorry,
demons?
but there could still be a possibility that you, like the rest of the 10% of people that had an NDE, found themselves in hell.
Right. Here's the thing. No, because I was grabbing physical people, right? And there were witnesses. I grabbed physical paramedics, guys who were pretty big, pretty well equipped for the job. I was throwing them around, and I saw demons. I was losing my stuff, right? I was losing my mind.
Then that's not an NDE. That's an hallucination. If you're still
Right. There you go.
conscious, and
Now we're getting at it, and I agree. I think these are
hold on.
hallucinations.
Okay, I understand that claim. I absolutely do. But we do still have legitimate universities and institutions doing the research as to could this be an hallucination. They say no, because again, the claims being made by the NDEers is that they're experiencing
You're talking to one of them. You keep ignoring.
they're experiencing superior clarity, colors that they've never seen before.
So I'm experiencing superior clarity.
Coherence. Things
Okay.
that make logical sense and an overwhelming amount of love on top of other.
All right, so
intentions or-
demons are representation of love. See, this is why I have a bit of an issue, man. But
Wait,
do you
wait,
really
wait,
think
wait,
that those
wait,
demons that I
wait,
was seeing
you're
were a
talking
representation of love?
You're talking about the story you're having as a subjective experience. I'm trying to talk about the overall
The other subjective
studies
experiences.
looking at the NDEs. I mean, again, did you die or not? Did
Yes.
you have zero heartbeat
Yes.
for an extended period of 5 minutes or something?
Yes. More than 5 minutes,
Then
unfortunately.
you were dead. Then you had a hellish experience, it sounds like.
So do you think that I
Welcome
went
to
to
the
hell and I
10%?
deserved demons?
Well,
No.
but the demon thing
No,
seems
no.
separate, right? Because if you're flailing around, you're not yet in the moment. You're not yet in the deathic moment, right?
That's a fair point, yeah.
Because
just
I would
saw the paramedics and police says that.
Because if your brain is in peril and you are panicking, I mean, manifesting just a perilous kind of imagining actually seems quite practical. I mean, it seems reasonable. Someone else wants to come up too. I don't know who this person is. Let me just check on him real quick.
I'm gonna
I
drop
wanted
down,
to say-
fellas. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's good to have you, Michael. Come back again.
Yeah, likewise. Good night.
Yeah, right on. Good night, Michael.
To
Blessed.
millennial, quickly. No, when I was at the hospital, I was put in an induced coma, and my heart was artificially operated for about 8 hours, and then I had to be put into the coma for about 2 more days. So it was like 3 days. Then I got back on.
It doesn't sound like you actually died, or like you got hit by a vehicle.
Let me check this person
Why
real
does
quick.
it
Hold
matter,
on.
man?
Hold
I
on.
flatlined. I
Hold
had
on, guys.
No brain activity for like
Hey,
a
hey,
half
Blessed.
hour.
Are you 18 plus?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
awesome.
over 18.
Okay, give us 1 second here. Go ahead, Phoenix. What were you saying?
Yeah, no, I actually did flatline. That's why my heart had to be mechanically operated, and I had no brain activity for 30 minutes, but they weren't going to pull the plug for it was like 2 hours for some reason was their policy, and that saved me, thankfully.
Okay. So there you go. So when did the flailing happen? Because it sounded like
When
you
the
actually had
paramedics
a
were coming over
legitimate.
to get me, I was not able to. I was on the floor. I wasn't able to recognize the people in my house.
So
A panic
I'm
nightmare.
confused. When did you? So you had the flailing about that through your hallucination. Where
Yeah, I
did the
saw
surgery
demons.
play into it?
And they were trying to grab me. I think it was started with friends trying to get me to the couch. They realized that I was messed up, and then they had to call paramedics.
Oh, okay, so you had a hallucination when you were alive. It sounds like.
Yes. How is that different from the others?
But that's not an
Because, again,
NDE.
what we're talking
I mean, by
about is
definition.
death when you have the zero EEG readings, not when you hallucinated way beforehand.
Okay, again, pardon me.
That's okay. Yeah, let's go
someone
ahead and let
who-
Blessed say her piece. Yeah, go ahead.
Someone who experiences clinical brain unaliving, there is a period of time that their brain function is so erratic that they might as well be unalive because there's nothing that is coherent about any activity in their brain. So
Absolutely,
yes, he
yes.
may have been having experiences, quote unquote, but none of those experiences he was the drive. He behind the driver's seat essentially, and to the extent that the bruises and whatnot that he discussed um, are just indicative of just how strenuous and also how vulnerable he was. I mean, realistically, if he had not gone to a hospital, it's very likely he would have been unalived.
But that's not what we're talking about. So I like what you said. And if I may, you pointed out that someone in that state would be, like you just used, they wouldn't be coherent, it'd be chaos, craziness, right? You just said that if someone's dying, zero EEG readings,
Um,
but these people that are having the reports or making the claims of the NDEs, they're experiencing what they claim to have perfect coherence. Everything made sense. They had downloads of information. They were able to speak telepathically, a 360-degree arc of vision. Like there was structured memories and coherence that would not be possible by a dying brain, or a brain that had zero EEG readings or
Can
little.
you explain the
EEG readings.
telepathy? And to be fair, could you just say heart rate or flatline? You don't need to keep saying EEG. But the
Well,
telepathy
EEG is
thing,
for the brain waves, not the heart. They had zero heart.
okay. Okay, even to the extent that you were talking about these people who had near-death experiences, this young man indicated that he had something that was very much the opposite. But I think it's important to take into consideration the manner in
hold on,
which
why
we're
would
discussing.
anyone do an EEG on someone who's passing away? You got some other concerns, like or a brain scan on someone who's passing away. Yeah, well, you're gonna have to deal with other things other than the brain if somebody's about to pass on. A little cultural influence.
But they're not going
Easter
to
eggs
have
in the
these similar.
resurrection.
Oh, okay.
Easter eggs in the resurrection.
Hold on. A 4-year-old will not have the amount of stored memories as to someone in their 90s to have a similar
Doesn't
experience
matter.
as
People tend not to have a lot of
coherent
memories of heaven, but they
and
have an implication of
structured
what it
as
should
it
be.
is.
Yeah, people will have an implication of what it should be, whether they're 4 or 90, because neither of those people have an experience of heaven.
But they are still describing heaven.
Right, because it's been described to them.
Wait. So here's an interesting fact. Near 70% of hardcore Bible thumpers will leave the religion after an NDE. 66% of atheists, hardcore atheists, will gain spirituality after an NDE. So what is something so powerful to change both of these groups?
Excuse me.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's just a way of looking at life, man.
And someone that's 4-year-olds describing something the exact same way as someone in
Can
their
I ask you
90s.
this respectfully? Please don't talk about 4-year-olds passing away. It's an uncomfortable subject for me.
My 3.5-year-old died in my arms. So bring it
That's
on.
why. Okay, that's very uncomfortable.
Okay.
Anyway, so yes, a young person passing away and an older person passing away. It's very sad, but you're saying they experience similar things. I get it.
There's a curveball I'm going to throw at you too.
Go for it.
We all chose the majority of the events in our lives, whether good or bad. We chose it.
What do you mean by that?
As it's explained in these NDEs, that we design our lives in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm sure that would probably be the most inaccurate thing you could have said because we don't. We are actually only the products of decisions that were made thousands of years ago, and every other decision leading up to
No, I
now.
understand the materialist argument, absolutely, but I'm talking about NDEs, and this is what they are claiming.
So you can blame me, but you won't have to blame yourself. I get it.
No, not at all. Free will still exists.
Yeah. So because of free will, you can blame me for the choices I apparently freely made. Fine.
Wait a minute. Wait, free will exists?
Yes.
Do you have any proof of that?
I mean, I had a sandwich today instead of a hot dog.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
but the
great.
sandwich was put into your fate, so you had to eat it.
Hey. Oh my God.
I still make
Anyway.
the choice.
No. Okay. Again.
No, it wasn't your
so
choice.
you. Oh my God. Again, having that sandwich versus starving, right? Because you could have been someone born in like Calcutta or in Africa and starved today instead of eating.
Okay. I mean, you still have choice within your limited amount of choices. It's still a choice.
First world
Didn't I-
problems, right?
I'm a huge-
I
yeah.
chose to buy a Lego today for $600.
I'm a huge
Of
free will
course.
skeptic. I think that most of our thoughts are even determined. And I think that mindfulness meditation and things like Zen kind of show you that, where you can do practice and think like, oh, most of these thoughts aren't even mine. They're just echoing from my body into my consciousness. And I'm just kind of confused about what, I'm even choosing or not. So I don't know if free will even exists.
If I could,
You're
this
getting
is
somewhere
important.
you're getting somewhere dangerous, because that dangerous place is the thoughts that aren't yours, the ones that are artificially put there, because people can
But if
very
you
easily
realize
brainwash
that, you
other
can
people.
choose better choices.
Yeah, I think it's real. Yeah.
Anyway, have any of you read the Bhagavad Gita?
I've
Yeah,
studied
I've
from
read
it, but
it.
no.
Yeah. Are you going to talk about the non-player characters, the MPGs?
No. What does that have to do with the Bhagavad Gita?
What were
It
you
literally
bringing?
talks about people who aren't really people; they're just kind of there.
Oh, I'm going to bring up
Where
Pistato.
does it talk about
Hold
that
on.
in the Bhagavad Gita?
Pistato's coming up real quick. She's been up before, so I just want to say hi real quick. And then I want to talk about the free will thing. Hey, Pistato, you had made a comment.
No, I came up because you guys were talking about near-death experiences, and I've had one, and it changed my religious views.
I'd love to hear about yours.
So I figured I would just pop up in here. But I'm over 18. I'm 36.
I remember you. That's okay. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, tell us about. Yeah, that's what you had said. I think that's interesting. Go ahead and tell us about that.
Well, I mean, like, what would you want to know? Because, like, my
Well, you can be
whole-
specific. From what to what?
Well, like, so before my NED, if you had asked me what happens when somebody dies, I would have told you that their soul either ends up at the heaven's gates to be led into heaven, or that they end up at hell's gates, and that judgment happens the moment you die. That was that's what my church taught me. That's what my parents taught me. That was my view on that. What happened was, an ex-boyfriend of mine was an alcoholic, and I was on heart medicine that I could not drink alcohol on, and I don't really remember too much of before everything happened, but from what I gathered, he got really drunk. He wanted a drinking buddy. I was asleep, and he made me drink, which led to my heart stopping. I know that after the EMTs were taking my body away, and I was standing, like, I went from being inside of myself to standing outside of myself, and I saw them put me in an ambulance and drive away. I didn't have a lot of time before I was basically drugged, is the best way I can describe the feeling. I was placed in a field. There was no one there. There was no clouds. There were no animals. I remember hearing people crying and looking for people off. Like, there's a cliff, and there was a valley that was covered in fog, and there were people down there who were, like, crying and screaming, looking for people. I know that when I went to go to the valley, because I was originally going to try to help this woman find her child, she was screaming for her baby, that something pulled me back to my starting position, and there were a bajillion paths. Like, it was not one, but like a million. I remember I was naked, but I had clothes on. I remember I could feel things, but there was nothing that was actually there. It was like a holographic thing. And I started walking on a path that was like super narrow. Like, think goat trail that hasn't been walked on in 50 years. I remember that I had to go through some of the hardest tests in my life. I had to face all of my actual fears. I remember that there was a point where I had to climb up a really tall cliff, and once I got to the top, there was no cliff. Like, it was weird. Um, I have vague memories of walking through, it was like a forest, and seeing like life's history and seeing like battles from World War II, seeing great battles, but like of what I'm going to say are Romans, because that's how they were dressed. And then I came to this clearing and saw my life being projected basically up in the sky. And what I thought was going to be on like the bad side of things versus like the good turns out that I was wrong. And I still don't 100% understand what it meant. But I got to see like I got to see events when I was a small baby that I shouldn't have known about. And only got confirmed after I came back and I asked people if they remembered something happening when I was like a year old.
Can I ask you, Postato, I love this story. This is very beautiful. I want to be very respectful. How much of this experience do you think was hallucination versus like revealed truth?
When it comes to that, that's where I'm kind of torn at, is because I do understand that when people pass, they have lack of oxygen. I've never gone and actually looked at the
Would it
fine
be fair to say you
details.
might be agnostic on this? You're not sure?
No, it sent me down a different path because I was very
So are you
devout
sure it's a
Baptist.
hallucination, or are you sure it's a revelation of greater truth?
So to me, it was extremely real. Like, it's as real as me standing here right now talking to you. So
I
to
wanted
me,
to
it
ask you
wasn't
two things
anything like
quickly.
that.
Have you heard of the fields of Aphrodisiac and Niflheim?
No.
Okay, so you say you're searching for certain things. The Greeks believed that in Hades, most souls went to the fields of Aphrodisiac, where people will wander in a great field, being lost. But this is why you were supposed to live a good life, so that you weren't like, wandering around. You had to have some purpose, and Elysium would be like a heaven for champions in the underworld. However, Niflheim in the Norse pantheon was a great land of mist where people would be miserable. And this was for people who were really dishonorable. So it was really interesting that you talked about a field where you were wandering, and then also a place of mist where people were miserable.
Yeah, I did not know that. I know that when I've looked up things and like people who have drawn like their NEDs, I tend to see the same things as what small children who have come back, who have drawn what they saw. It matches a lot more than what other people have said. I know that at the end of my path, because I had something with me, I don't like calling it like it never introduced itself. It never told me what it was, but I had something with me during my
Your
entire
shade.
like
Your
journey.
shade.
Your
Huh?
guardian.
I wouldn't call it that.
No. It's a shade. It's a shade.
Was it a being, an entity?
It was watching me. That's all that I could
See,
gather.
this is interesting
It knew
because
me, and it was watching me.
so when I moved on, I didn't talk about this, but I did have a tether, so I could see myself in third person, right? And
Yeah.
so I couldn't control exactly where the tether went, but I could see myself from another perspective. So maybe what you're referring to is something connected to a type of tether in that way, like like a camera on a rope or something. I don't know, but I've felt that as well. But I didn't talk about it because it's just sometimes I can do that in real life. Like, I know I'm not seeing from outside of myself, but I'll imagine what I look like in a different perspective than my own eyes.
There was
It was
a
like that.
Just admit this happened during death.
it's
Well,
hard to
it did, but
explain because the things that happened, there aren't really good English words to describe
yeah.
it. So I'm limited in the words that I can describe what
So,
happened.
Posada, what happened to
Post.
you?
I gotta say this though, Post, you would really be interested in looking at Greek words and definitions because that's why they had so many interesting implications. And I would suggest looking into that, and then also looking into the Greek underworld, maybe into the Norse afterlife and the Norse realms on Yggdrasil, because there's some similarities. It seems like from what you described. Anyway, I just wanted to add one more thing about this tether. I can control it. It's an imaginary thing. Like I can think of like if someone opened my door and looked at me, what I would look like. But also, if I passed on or wherever I was hallucinating, I imagined looking at myself from another perspective, but I couldn't choose where I imagined it.
Why didn't you share
That's all
this
I
with
wanted
us
to say.
earlier, Phoenix? Why didn't you say that earlier?
Because this is something that I kind of just do on my own.
There's
But
a video game
when,
about this, by the way. There's an Elliot Page video game specifically about her connected to a spirit through a tether. It's very interesting.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it's
forget what
kind of cool.
I'll look
But
it
isn't
up.
it like this like little dot or something? And then yeah. But there is I think some sort of tether because you can't. But then people talk about astral projecting. I think there's a similar thing that happens there.
Yeah, it's like the gateway
So
experience.
far,
So what
so far in
then
all of
astral
my
projects?
research, I haven't found any like one source that 100% matches what I experienced myself. And just to finish up kind of what happened was after I walked basically through my entire life, seeing all the little decisions and all the big decisions and the things that like there were moments where I'm like, yeah, this is gonna send me to hell. Like those weren't there. It was the moments where I had never like thought for a moment about my actions impacting anyone else outside of myself that were. So being very selfish and very self-centered, that's kind of what I gathered from that experience. And then I remember it's a really weird rope looking tree thing. I I found it. It's an extinct tree that we only have fossils of. And there was not very many, like, there's not much information on it, but I remember there was like this really weird rope looking tree thing. And then I hit an invisible wall that was like a mirror bouncing everything back. And I found a door, and the door was a wooden door, but it had like a golden heartbeat. Like it's really weird to try to explain it. And the thing that had been watching me the entire time, because I just stood at the door, I was afraid to open it. I was afraid to do anything. I just stood there for the longest time. Something came and took my hand and put my hand on the doorknob and had me turn it. And when I turned it, there was a large gust of wind. Something with like it was like 1,000 voices told me that I was not meant to be there yet, and I had more life to live. I know that where my life had been getting projected into the sky, I got to see more events that hadn't happened yet. And I mean, like, they're just brief moments. Like, think of like going through a slideshow really, really quickly. Moments yet, like, I saw myself in a store with a mask on and people freaking out about a virus. I know that when COVID came through, there was a moment where I was standing in that exact store with those exact people doing that exact, like, it was a very, very unique moment. I know that I saw, like, I got married to a man, I got divorced from the man, and exactly how long I was going to be married to him and why we were getting a divorce and all of that, and like where I was supposed to go next. And then yeah, it basically the ground opened up within, like, from underneath me. The thing that had been holding me, like, guiding me, I slipped through its hand and I fell back into my body. And I was in an emergency room on suicide watch because they had to bring me back like 3 times. And they thought I had tried to do something I didn't. But that's kind of what happened there. And I didn't talk about it for years because it's weird.
How would you say this?
This changed you? How did
Yeah,
this change you?
I was going to ask that same question. Yeah.
So before, I used to think that doing nice things, like, let me figure out the best way to phrase this, because I was not a very genuine person before. I used to think that like doing nice things for people gave you like points to go to heaven. So like giving a homeless man $5, not because I want to help a homeless person, but because I want to like be able to stand in front of God and be like, well, I gave a homeless guy $5. That all changed because, like I said, a lot of the things that were shown to me that were seen as negatives or like bad was a lot of selfish moments. It was a bunch of moments where I could have gone and helped somebody. I could have done something selfless. And instead of doing the selfless thing, I was basically self-centered and walked away.
So, did you have any visions of you doing good things?
I mean, like, I saw good things, like moments where, like when my friend told me that she was gay and I gave her a hug. I never told her that she was going to, like, that it was a sin or anything. That moment was on the good side. I know that, like, when I got to see things, the night my mom died, I thought I was alone, and I wasn't. There were the things that were watching me were also there that night, like hugging me. So it's like really, really weird. But when
There's
it comes
another
to
thing from. Oh, sorry. I have something to add, though. There's another thing from Norse mythology. They're called the Valkyrie, and they would watch over battlefields to see if somebody fell. And when they fell, they would either take them to Odin or Frey, so they could go to Vanaheim or Valhalla. But when you talk about things watching over you, it reminds me a little bit of the Valkyrie.
yeah, it's just I really wish that there was better words to describe it. It's just, I'm just one person and nothing was explained. I know from what I was able to gather that the people who were in the mist and in the valley who were lost and crying out for help, that they were there of their own free will. They could have left at any point. All they had to do was stop looking for what they were looking for and walk out. But they refused.
Can I ask you, Postato, about what your like sincerely held mystical beliefs were about things like afterlives and gods before this experience?
I mean, my original, like, this is what happens is you either go to heaven or you go to hell. Like, there is no in between. There is no figuring it out. Like, basically, the moment you stop breathing is the moment you get judged, and based on where you get judged, you go one place or the other.
Did you believe that?
Yeah.
What was were you taught by a specific tradition, like a specific denomination or anything like that?
I was Baptist. I was always told that I would walk down like a tunnel of light and that Jesus would be there with usually some ancestor that meant a lot. So I always figured it'd be my mom would be standing there waiting for me, and I'd come out and either go to heaven or technically at that point in my life, I was very convinced I was going to hell. So
what do you believe now?
that's a little bit harder because I never got to see what was behind that door. I didn't get to ask any questions. I had, like, I know in my life now when it comes to like those pinnacle moments, I go towards the not being a selfish jerk. So if like I'm at a store and there's like one loaf of bread left and I want a loaf of bread, but somebody else wants it too, I'm gonna give them the loaf. I don't care, like they can have it.
That's
I
interesting.
don't.
So you weigh the value of a loaf of bread compared to your soul, and you feel your soul is worth more giving away that bread, huh?
No, it's not even that. It's more of a, there's no point. Like it's very accepting because I
Um,
know that I will have food today. I will
have
have
you
food tomorrow.
So you're
have you
feeling
ever
compassion for others.
have you ever considered the value of the soul to be something inherent, like good for goodness sake, like taking joy in the good act because that good act is something you did that you chose.
I don't think of good and like evil the same way as I did before. It's just, it's kind of like that there is no true bad people. It's just humans are humans and we have our flaws.
Can I
That's
ask you
how we
something?
work with
So,
those flaws. Yeah.
if you had to call someone bad, who would you call bad now?
There isn't a single person.
No one?
No.
Interesting. If you had to call someone good, would you call anyone good?
Also, no.
So it's all a measure of experiences that we are all participating in.
That's kind of what I like, gathered. And like I said, I might be wrong because nothing was ever explained to me. It's not like somebody sat down and was like, oh, this valley is the valley of death, or oh, this field, it's purgatory, or this tree is the tree of life, or the tree of whatever. No one sat down and explained anything. It was just walking and looking at things and observing things and just trying to put together the pieces. So I might even be wrong. I don't know. Like, I don't know
Hey,
where I went.
host, that ex who gave you alcohol, they knew that they shouldn't do that, right?
Yeah, he knew. He knew I had taken my hurt pills and that I couldn't drink on them and that I had
Yeah,
um
could
I had
could
just
we go?
started a brand new job.
Did you learn anything about your body or what had happened after your heart stopped and the drinking?
So what I gathered was after he woke me up, which I barely remember, I remember him putting a bottle in my mouth and me being like half on the floor and half on the bed with a bottle. And it was basically a drink it or choke feeling. Um, I remember being in my kitchen and him with more alcohol and him holding like on top of me. It felt like he was on top of me with
I
another
understand. Thank
bottle.
you. This is
Um,
why I wanted to ask you, do you
yeah,
think that he is not a bad person?
I think knowing him, I think that he's a very hurt person, but I don't think
He's
he's
hurt,
bad.
okay.
I,
So
I
from
think
my
that
perspective,
he was just a
my
very hurt
my my
person.
view of things. Sure, sure.
Mhm.
My view of things, he is a bad person. He is someone who deserves to be damned. Um, I don't care if he's hurt. I can relate to all of that, but when someone turns around and uses that hurt to harm others or to hurt others for the sake of entertainment, I think that should lead to condemnation, personally.
Well, we each are on our own journey at the end of the day, so
He
it's
made a
just
choice. He knew better and he made a choice.
I
And
don't
that was
fully
the choice he made on his journey.
I don't
I
fully agree
also
with
don't
that conclusion.
think he was intending for the night to end the way that it ended. So that's the other
Well,
kind of like
to be fair,
caveat there.
neither of us could fully understand what was going on in his head.
Yeah. Like I talked to him afterwards about it, and
So,
he doesn't remember anything of that night. He said that he sat down with his
so,
whiskey I got him and drank it, and he thought he
so,
went to
so
sleep.
he forced the alcohol to you. Did they call the ambulance? What happened later?
I remember us getting into a fight. Because I did not want to drink, and I kept taking my hand and like trying to slap the bottle away. Um, he got hurt because I remember that. And when he left the room, I left the house, and I got like maybe a half a block away from my house. I had called an ex-boyfriend of mine, told him where I thought I was. I wasn't anywhere near where I thought I was, and I collapsed in some bushes. And my ex, after he got off of work, got my voice message, thought that I was in trouble, so he went and found me and called an ambulance. Technically, he called the police, but then the police called an ambulance.
So you said
So
your
that's
heart
how you
stopped.
got taken to the hospital, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still feel
Now,
bad because I threw up all over a poor cop.
they're used to it, trust me. Someone said, I'd like to meet Phoenix at 30 or 40 LOL. How old do you think I am, millennial?
I assumed that's how old you were.
30 or 40?
You sound, I don't know, young 30s, maybe late 20s.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. I just wondering what the
You think
implication
young.
of that is. Like,
I
I've read apocryphal texts. I know that they are hidden, and I've read some of them. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not. I don't know. I look pretty deeply into things, even if I don't sound ancient, I guess.
I did
You
want to
sound
comment.
pretty young.
I wanted to comment a little bit on what you had said, Phoenix, about if he's a good or bad person. And I just wanted to say I do believe in rehabilitation. And I think that also comes back to the free will conversation about why we are the way we are and what we do and why we do what we do. And I think that all of that is very conditional. So if someone does something terrible, even if they say hurt people, which is very true, I don't think condemnation is necessary because I think just conditional change in a person is always possible. But maybe that's not a popular
Condemnation.
belief.
I understand. Condemnation is part of the world. I've been condemned in my innocence. I have not hurt anyone. There are no victims in some of what I've been punished for and condemned for. And so, I guess how I see things is instead of condemning the innocent, we should condemn the guilty. That's all.
I don't know. Maybe what do you mean by condemn? Like, can you be specific on that word?
So
That sounds
we
very
have
final.
ICE. Yep. So we have ICE right now. They're throwing, people who are trying to get their paperwork. They're trying to get their paperwork settled out. Oh, you didn't do it quickly enough, or you're behind on your, green card. They throw these people into jails and have them basically starve to death and things like that. That's the people who are thrown into these jails, like the one in Florida. They're innocent, but yet they're still condemned. The people who are throwing them in there, they're
Yes, but
evil.
what do you mean
And
by that
so,
word? Because to me, when you say
condemn.
condemn,
So
that's like final, absolute. But is that not what you
it
mean?
means they're guilty. It means they're guilty and they should be punished.
Okay, I'm not sure if that's how I would use the word condemn, but you mean like just found guilty.
Or the judgment, or the actually, really, truly, the punishment, because that's what we're talking about, the consequences. They're suffering the consequences of the actions of guilty men when they are not guilty of anything.
Right. So yeah, to be condemned it's a very serious thing. It's like damnation. So it just means you're scheduled for punishment and you are guilty.
Well, damnation is another one of those words. That's even more like permanent and absolute. But is that what you mean? Do you mean absolute and permanent, or do you mean just like found guilty and then action can be taken to resolve a situation?
Well, it is eternal. It is eternal. The evil that's done against the innocent is unacceptable, fully
That's what I-
unacceptable. And
They've been sentenced without being guilty. They've been sentenced without being found guilty.
right. And so that's completely unacceptable. So the guilty should then be condemned. They should be declared guilty and they should be punished. They
That sounds
should
very
live
Old
every
Testament.
second.
That's very Old
Well,
Testament
I
of you.
really hope not, because I am not as open and warm and fuzzy as the Old Testament when it comes to people like ICE and other criminals attacking Americans.
Well, I think-
Honestly, the most I've ever agreed with him on this panel has been his viewpoint on this, because again, it is better that 100 guilty men go free than one innocent man suffer. That was said by our forefathers. and we've forgotten that entirely in this country.
That just sounds very absolute. I think just why I wanted to question it was because in the situation like with Postata, where she was put in a bad situation by someone, and then, the course of action, if we say condemnation or damnation, these permanent terms, I think they lack forgiveness, they lack mercy, they lack grace. And I think they do inform our worldview. So,
Did she
I don't
do
know.
anything wrong?
I mean the person who acted against her.
Oh, okay.
What happens if we live in a world where the guilty never get punished? What if we have a world where people continually hurt people intentionally because they can get away with it?
What defines guilty though? Like who
Your action,
should be?
your intent, the evil you've done, that makes you guilty.
Well, if you go by the intent, the night that happened to me, the intention that I was told by the person who did it to me was that he wanted his girlfriend to drink with him because he was dealing with a lot of really, really heavy stuff.
Are you estranged, Postato? Are you separated from this person now? Like, is this person okay? So you're
His girlfriend, who he knew one way or another could possibly unalive. I was stabbed 13 times. I almost lost my arm as a result of it, but I did lose my life for almost 9 minutes.
That sounds so much more painful than what I had to deal with. I could not imagine being stabbed once, let alone 13.
It was a Wolverine attack. It's done to make sure that the person will not survive because they bleed out. So when he was previously Special Forces, he was a sapper, Special Combat Engineer.
He's a sapper?
And I can say, yep. Sappers first.
I'm so sorry that happened to you.
With close quarters.
That's wild.
Wait, why was this like an ex or something? Who attacked you?
My daughter's father.
Okay.
So that's interesting. I mean, that's horrible, and I'm very sorry that happened to you. And I'm curious your relationship with things like, Phoenix brought up condemnation, but I think a merciful kind of worldview is a bit more productive. Maybe what are your thoughts on that?
The person who I had my daughter with was not there in those moments. He wasn't. He had the bluest eyes I've ever seen in my life. It's literally the perfect baby blue. But while he was attacking me, his eyes were black. I would swear to that on the stand if I was in court. Until I told him he was taking my. And when I told him he was unaliving me, when I told him you're unaliving me, he dropped the paring pokey in his hand and dropped to his knees. And because I didn't want to wake our daughter because she was asleep, I ran upstairs and locked myself into our bedroom because I just was so certain that he was going to come knocking on the door and say and apologize and cry and say how he fucked up, and how he would take me to the hospital and we would make this somehow right. And I would say I was attacked in a parking lot or at the park or something, but we were going to still make this right somehow. I didn't realize that as soon as I closed that door, I was going to pass out from lots of blood until I heard the screaming from downstairs, and it was my daughter. It was my daughter screaming. And I mustered whatever energy and life I had still in me to march down those stairs. And I was ready to fight anything because I didn't throw a single blow when he attacked me. I didn't even push him because I just was in shock. But when I thought he was attacking her, I would have done anything until I made it to almost the last step going down the stairs, and I saw her on top of him. She was giving him CPR and screaming and crying, and he was blue like a Smurf. I looked at her, and the moment she made eye contact with me and I had said her name, she stopped doing CPR. And she picked up her cell phone and she called 911, and she said that they needed to come and help her mom. And I stumbled over to him and I tried to start doing CPR, but my left arm was pretty much hanging on by very fucking little. and I couldn't. It's so hard to do chest compressions. It's so hard to. And I begged her to help me, but she said, "He did that to you, didn't he? He did that to you." And she went out on our patio and she waited for the ambulance to come, and she helped them get me on a gurney, but she refused to do anything for her own dad. And when I was in an ambulance, he was asking me something, and I just went black. And as soon as it went black, it was like I knew that he was unalive, that he didn't make it. And I also knew that my daughter was okay, and I knew she was going to be mad at her dad forever. I knew it, and I knew she was going to talk to her children one day about what happened, and I knew all these other things, and I knew most of all,
What happened to him? He went blue.
We lost Blessed. I'm going to give her a moment to reconnect, if that was an accident.
Sounds very unpleasant, though.
Yeah, this is very heavy. I would love for her to come back and finish telling us her story. I would love to know her thoughts on sort of how she feels about that person now after the fact. I'm bummed that she dropped right then. I'm sure it was an accident. That's too bad.
It's also really hard to talk about. I know, like, for me, it took me years and being in therapy for a really long time to even start being able to verbalize what had happened. So, like, I can kind of sympathize or empathize with
Yes.
her. And
Yeah, how
that
brave
she
just to
gets through
share.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that takes a lot.
yeah.
I want to say this about SF. A lot of them need therapy. Some of them on deployment, some of them have never been deployed. These guys they have a certain mindset that doesn't exactly make them the best family men. So just saying that. But yeah, it's why they can be very aggressive very suddenly, especially if they're not right in the head, in the correct headspace.
Yeah, I know. I know, but military members can change on a dime. My dad's a Marine from Vietnam with PTSD, and there have been many, many, many times where that PTSD, we weren't here. We were back in Vietnam.
Yeah, and that's what changes people. So that's why I think it's important to have some help for some of these folks. Did you guys hear about? And this was an attack on an ICE facility recently. I think two people were injured, 2 ICE members, and then the guy was arrested. Did you hear about this story?
I did not.
I've tried to avoid.
Well, there was a guy arrested, right? And people were saying, "Oh, he's a super left-wing crazy guy. He's a feminist," or he's. Turns out the guy was trained with the Afghan security forces. He was a local Afghani, and he was trained with the Americans, and then decided to come to the U.S. And so then people want to talk about like immigration or something. A lot of BS. But
Hey,
this
Phoenix,
guy,
hold on.
before this happened,
I wanted you to tell the story about this, but also before we move on a little bit from the heavy moment, I thought maybe she would come back and finish her story, but if we're not going to do that, I just want to address kind of the moment real quick. If anybody who was listening to that story feels a little intense, just that's an okay thing to feel. That was shake it off if that was a lot for you guys to listen to. I appreciate you guys being here. There's a lot of people listening. Just shake it off and do something you love. Get some fresh air and touch some grass if that was intense. I just wanted to say that. But I wanted to go ahead and let you go ahead and talk, Phoenix. But are you going to talk about politics?
I'm going to avoid it. And I hope that's
Thank you.
fair. But
Yeah.
anyway, all I wanted to say was this guy before that event, coming from Afghanistan, being part of the Afghan security forces, he was talking about how he thought he was the Grim Reaper. He thought he was like, turbo spiritual hardcore guy. Anyway, he had some mental issues. That's all I'm saying. So all I want to do, and hopefully this isn't too political, is that I really hope that our service members get the mental health help that they need. And when they start talking about how they're the Reaper or they're Thanatos and all that. That's a bad sign. That doesn't mean that's not a good thing. They need some help, and so that's what I wanted to get into. That's all I meant to say.
Okay. I appreciate your thoughts.
What I'm in there though is that the military member themselves needs to be willing to go to therapy. I mean, my dad spent all of my life telling me that he could hear and see God and talk to angels and see demons and all of that. And every single time he ever heard the voice of God or saw an
Part of that is
angel or
cultural.
anything like that, it
Part of that is
was,
cultural though too. We get guys who talk about that. We go, oh, that's hardcore. Woohoo, that's cool. We're glad to have you on our side. Haha, not the we're glad you're not with the bad guys. That's something we need to take more seriously. We need to avoid glorifying that. That's what I've been involved in some of this stuff. I know how it works. We need to glorify people getting help and being rational. That's all I'm saying.
And I'd like to finish in saying that Postado, I believe you had an NDE, and I believe it was a real event for that. That was just kind of my topic I was talking about tonight.
yeah. I mean, like, when I think back on it, I still remember what the dirt felt like. I still remember what the breeze felt like. I remember looking at plants. I kept stopping and looking at all of these beautiful flowers that I'd never seen before and just taking moments, and I would just stop and look. And I always thought it was just so weird because there was not a single bird or cloud in the sky. There was no animals. It was 100% silent. It was the weirdest thing in the world. But once I came back, I've looked up those plants and looked through like fossil records and that kind of stuff. And a lot of the things that I saw match what we believe these like fossil records of plants and different things like that. So I don't know. It changed me for the good. Like I'm way more chill now than I used to be, but overall, it's didn't really answer any questions. It just gave me more.
Have you heard the phrase "only God can judge me," and then people will basically give other people the middle finger because they think the judgment doesn't count?
I've heard that. That's
I think
why
that's
I
something people
don't.
lean on too much.
I think
That's
anger
why I don't
towards God
think.
is irrational. I mean, if you believe God exists, I mean, being angry at him doesn't. Those two concepts don't really make sense to me. Thanks for being
Do
here,
you
Rob.
feel that applies to me?
If you sincerely believe in God and are angry at him, I think that's confusing to me.
I see. I sincerely believe that people believe in God, and I think that they believe they have authority to shirk just judgment that comes from other people. So I see a lot of that.
So
But I don't think there's a God. I think that people have this concept that allows them to do unethical things, and that's why I'm angry.
Postado, what is now your spiritual belief, if you have one?
So I identify as a follower of Christ at this point because one thing that happened after I came back is I went to a Baptist church, sat down in the pews, and most of what the preacher said just it
Didn't make
didn't.
sense.
Well, no, it's not that it didn't make sense. It felt like I was being lied to.
Hmm.
And when I went to a preacher and asked him about some things that I had seen or heard, I didn't tell him that it was due to an NED. I told him that I looked it up online, just because I thought it was a little bit weird talking to a preacher about a near-death experience, and found out that a bunch of the things that I did gather and did understand, that the church hides it on purpose. Because if they were to come out and tell the truth about
He was
everything,
Baptist, right?
yeah, and it was a Baptist preacher, and he told me that butts and seats and having that donation pan full every Sunday was the goal, and that it didn't telling the truth didn't keep the lights on was another thing that he told me.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I haven't been able to find like a church that is talking about the actual truth and actually trying to get people to go and seek the truth, and churches that
Apostate. Why did you choose the name apostate for this account online? What's the story behind that?
I'm an apostate from Mormonism.
So
I see.
hold on. You put Postato. You kept saying truth.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, like, there's so much things that the churches do that just aren't there. Going from the name of Christ to having church on Sunday. They've changed the holy day. The holidays that they try to say are Christian aren't Christian. They try to say that the church, you need the church to find salvation, and that is not what I gathered from my time on the other side.
Do you still
And
believe that
it's a
there's a
lot of,
deity?
I still believe that there's a God, like that there's a creator, that there's some, like that some form made the universe, made our souls. I believe in souls still. I still believe in angels. It's just my view has shifted, or my perspective has shifted greatly on different things. It's like I don't need to go to a church and confess my sins to a preacher, because I can just do that in private and it's okay.
And you said that this real, like real, or an hallucination?
To me, the whole experience was extremely real. Very tactile, very sensory motivated, not I didn't feel like I was floating or anything like that. I mean, like I remember my feet being in the dirt. I remember touching the plants. I remember the the smell of the fog.
Can I push that a little bit? Can I ask you if you mean that it was realistic, or do you think that it was some kind of reality experience?
It was real to me.
You teacupped, so I can't hear you if you got a call or something. I'm going to come back to the app so we can hear what you're saying, but we can't hear you right now. That's it.
Apostate, I wanted to say something. I'm sorry for cutting in, but
No, that's okay. If Postato comes back, she can finish her thought. But yeah, go ahead, Phoenix.
I'll try to make that person priority. But a lot of this is systems of control. It's been this way for centuries, and this is why I'm kind of angry with all this. This is why I think any fanciful thinking is so offensive to me, because I realize that it's just another system to control, corrupt, and destroy human beings, their souls, and the world.
What
around
is?
them.
What are you saying is a system that does that?
Well, mostly Abrahamic religion, but we have Hinduism as well. Most of this stuff is designed to make people afraid, or it's supposed to get them away from taking responsibility where we could actually do good for other people. And there's something really strange to me, and I have to bring this up. But of course, anyone can say that I'm delusional. That's fine. But the unit that I was trying to train to serve was the USAF pararescuemen, and the emblem we use is a guardian angel. Our motto is / was, I mean it still is, but I don't serve them, but it is these things we do so that others may live. It's really interesting to me because I kept that principle and I want to keep that principle, but I see so much stuff not leading to life, prosperity, or selflessness. I see so much of it is a bunch of lies to empower systems, like the Mormon Church. They say and do so much just to empower themselves, but they don't really want to help people.
Are you
And that's
saying,
what makes me
Phoenix?
angry.
Are you saying that all Abrahamic? Correct me if I was wrong on this. Did you say all Abrahamic faiths are lies?
Well, yes, but they tend to continue this even if it is pleasant. The people who are in the pleasant, they become pawns of it. They say, oh, see, look at this nice person. This is what we're all like. And that's a lie.
I thought you were appealing to the Bible earlier.
Yeah, because that's an important thing we need to look at. Does it all match up? And it tends not to.
Well, I mean, if you're doubting it, why focus on it? Because there are other scriptural texts available. Like you can study the Bhagavad Gita. Someone wants to come up. Let me bring up this other person. I don't know who they are, but let's do a quick intro and then we can continue this conversation. I'm interested in your thoughts, Phoenix, on that. Hey, Secret, are you 18 plus?
Yeah, I'm 18. Are you guys going to talk about the prompt? Because I want to know what the host thinks of the prompt. Like, what's the answer?
Oh, I'm hyper skeptic, so I challenge any answer. My actual answer, if I'm to be honest, is that I think the concept of nothing is irrational. So something is the necessary existence.
Because it's irrational? Nothing's irrational?
The concept of nothing is irrational, yeah. It can't be. So I think that nothing, that the entailment is that something is equivalent to necessary existence, and nothing can't be and something can't not be. So I don't believe nothing is even a possibility.
Does that mean that things that are irrational are like inherently like not real?
It depends on what you mean by irrational. I think I mean like mechanically irrational,
like mathematically or something, or
what about Secret? What's your stance?
Yeah,
I think about this like every day, and it's like earth shattering, and I think about it at like 3 a.m, and it's just like so perplexing.
I want to have someone else up. They've been in the chat for a while. I think they have some thoughts they want to give. Rump, are you 18 plus?
Oh, yes, I'm 48.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. It's Secret. Do you want to go ahead and give your thoughts, and then we can talk about it?
I want to hear what everyone else thinks. I just wanted you guys to be on the prompt.
Yeah, we can be on the prompt.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Rump.
Yeah. So what you just said about you can't have nothing, right? I mean, that's
right. That would be my claim. Yeah.
Your belief about not having nothing. You can't have nothing. There's no non-existence.
Right.
Right. So quantum physics proves that, because there is no time. Like there's no linear time in the quantum field. I mean, that's been a fairly accepted reality for quite some time. I mean, Einstein called
why is there no linear reality of time in quantum physics?
Because so think about if you know like Einstein's relativity theory, right? I mean, what he called quantum physics was spooky action at a distance. And so, and then we have quantum entanglement and everything else. Like light itself. Did you know every photon that you experience, light itself, right? When God said, "Let there be light," so you're experiencing photons. You're seeing. The only reason you could see anything.
Photons are particles of the energy that we call light. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So every photon that you experience, right, doesn't experience time. It never left the Big Bang. It didn't go anywhere.
Why would it experience time? What are you implying an atom would experience time?
Because that's relativity. Because that's relativity. Very well.
Is there such thing as space? Is there space?
Yeah, but we're experiencing space. Yes, but what I'm trying to point out.
Are we experiencing time?
Well, that's how we're having this experience. Is in the gap between the two realities of the fact that we are source, we are God, we are in the place that we started and we never left.
I know, but like just because we're God, like we're God or part of God, how does that have to do with whether or not there's space or time?
Yeah, but let me finish. Is that there is only the now. So what I'm saying is there is only the now. There is no past.
Is there space?
But wait.
Rump, that's A theory? Are you saying A theory?
No, I know, but let me. I'm trying to prove the point that I came in here to say, which is that there is only if there's only the now, then I'm pointing out that basically if there's only the now, then non-existence doesn't exist.
Do you reject B theory?
Oh, I like that. That makes sense.
If you exist, then
you
can't
understand and accept the quantum field.
Yes.
What is the quantum field?
what is the quantum field? Do you know particle wave theory?
Yes.
Okay.
Roughly.
What happens with particle wave? I mean, there's the observer effect, correct?
Well, it's similar to sonic physics.
No, it's not at all. So what is the observer effect in the quantum field? Like when, because I mean,
You're talking about how things change when observed, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yep. Right. So when things, so we observe it because when you know, in chemistry and atomic theory, when you go into the micro realm, right, they talk about probability fields, right? And the reason they talk about that is it's a field of infinite possibilities. Is because that's what they're observing in science. And it basically collapses the waveform into a particle when it's observed.
Okay, so since like I'm like down with this idea that there's only now, and since there's only now and I exist, like I can't not exist because there's only now. So that's like cool. So then my other question is like, what do you think the mechanism is that shifts us around in like different states of feeling and like different so-called different places and relationships and career, you know what I mean? Like what's the mechanism of change? You know what I mean?
Fate.
Yeah.
Because there's no change though.
But you guys are rejecting B theory? Is that what's happening? You guys don't?
What's B theory?
It's the block universe where all time and all space are equally real.
Happening at once.
Well, not happening at once because time still exists, but time being a dimension, it's all equally real. So the past is equally real, the future is equally real. That the moment isn't preferential.
I can explain that to you. So
go ahead.
So do you know there's basically a mathematical algebraic proof where if you take 0.999 repeated ellipse, which is ... right, and equals 1. Right, and you can prove it really quickly, right? And it's just algebraic proof, but it doesn't sound right.
It functionally would equal 1. You'd have to have it equal 1 to function in any formula.
Right, but
okay, we'll pretend like I'm really dumb and I don't know math. Like, what's the mechanism that moves things around?
I'm not going to give you the proof right now because like understand that
I'm not even trying to argue with you. I agree with you. I'm just like. But I'm trying to think to myself, like
moving things around. What does that mean?
Well, what I'm saying is that the point.
How do you go from like, okay, you're you're wealthy and you have like you feel purpose, and then maybe in the next time you don't feel wealthy and you feel like you don't have, you know what I mean? And then you're.
I don't think movement exists.
Like, what is the mechanism that moves us about?
No, what I'm saying is that 0.999 ... right, repeated, actually equals 1 in algebra. And so what I'm saying is,
so what?
It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right to people. And what I'm saying is that existence exists within the gap between the 0.999 repeated and the 1, because if it was
you're not saying anything.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Hold on a second. So you're saying it could be to the infinite degree. There would then be a 0.0001 way farther back somewhere in this, right?
What I'm saying
is what is that
topic since my phone died and I
you're fine, Postato. We did come back to the actual prompt, so we are talking about why there's something.
There is.
Post, I wanted to say thank you for sharing what you did, because that's a very difficult subject to talk about.
I agree. Yeah, thank you so much. It's too bad you got disconnected halfway through, and I do appreciate your stories.
Yeah. Well, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I mean, like, I might not have all of the answers, but it's just my like perspective, I guess, when it comes to it. It's hard to explain because I don't know.
And I appreciated your story a lot. That's kind of why I came on too, because I had a very similar experience. So
the Post, I wanted to say one thing too. I brought up the idea of mental health services for military personnel. I don't know if you heard that, but it's an important thing to me. I really think more people need to have access to it, or that culture should change so that more people get into it. Because right now the culture is don't ever talk about, mental health issues. Or if you do, it's glorified as like hardcore. I think that really needs to change.
I think that when it comes to the military's mental health program, that they should take the weight of other people outside of the veterans' point of view as more weight, because my dad had a complete mental breakdown. I mean, he was talking to dead people in a closet, and all the VA would do was call him on the phone, and he was telling this VA person that he was in a chair in his living room watching TV, and he was literally like in his
Well, that's lying,
closet,
yeah.
sobbing, and I could not get him to come out of like the area. And he ended up attacking me, and when I called out for help, because there's a line for family members, he refused to go to the VA services. So he refused to go to the VA hospital. He went to a civilian hospital. Civilian hospital has no protocol for Vietnam vets who are having mental breakdowns. So they released him. And I could not get anyone to make him go back to the
So what's the mechanism that moves us, or that we experience change?
That we experience change? That's what I was trying to point out. Is that
well, time and energy?
No, I don't believe in change.
It's movement. It's movement.
Tell me more about not believing in change. Tell me more about not believing in change.
Well, blocked universe makes it unnecessary, because if all moments are equally real, there's no traversing. So so then all states are real.
Right. They're crystallized. They don't move.
Hey, Postato, we're going to talk about the prompt. I love your story. I don't want to be disrespectful. If you want to stay up, that's wonderful. And also, you're welcome to come back again. And if you want to contribute to this on-prompt topic, that's also beautiful.
Okay, so you know what my question is, though, right? Like, how is it that we can experience these different, what it seems like,
right?
Or, you know what I mean? It seems like my car moved.
Well, I think time's an illusion.
That's what I just said.
Like that.
Yeah. We are experiencing.
It's just another dimension.
We're experiencing our entire lifetime from the beginning to end. That experience is all equally real from beginning to end, but the illusion is just. And someone said this earlier, and I really agreed with it, that our experience was a species-specific experience. Oh, it was Michael. He brought up a study, and he's gone. Oh, he's in the chat. Or at least listening. But I do think that's true, is that our biology gives us the experience of time.
Well,
Like
time
more
is a
so than like a
moving thing.
dog, or like a deer, or like a bug.
So here's the real question: how can you change that coordinate of time, though?
You're kind of quiet, Secret. I don't know if you can increase your volume a little bit.
I'm so sorry. I was gonna say like more than like a dog or like a bug or something. Our experience of
yes.
the lifetime. Do you think it's because we say I am and we have an individuated I am, where like nothing else has that, like nothing else says that?
Well, some animals see themselves in mirrors, but I think it's definitely part of our prefrontal cortex.
See yourself in mirrors. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying like having an I, like an individuated, like an I am. Like
I don't think all humans have that. Yeah, I don't think even.
If
I don't think
time
all
is another
humans have that.
dimension, time is another dimension in which we should have a coordinate, then is it possible to change the location or time within that coordinate?
Yeah. So what an answer saying like in the imagination, does that count? Because like in mind and in imagination, you can conjure
No, but you can
like very
contemplate
real.
the past. Contemplating the future doesn't mean that you can accurately contemplate.
I think
But if you
I
do
think the
remember
mind
in
is
past
physically
getting a
real.
blue car,
Well,
then you can contemplate that blue car accurately, but you cannot contemplate the future actively. You can.
But that's not time
contemplate the
travel.
present actively.
That's not time travel. That's just in the mind.
Well, I'm
I mean,
talking about moving upon the coordinate of time.
we lost
So
someone.
how can we
Lily
move
Bean.
upon the coordinate of time accurately?
Well, the reason that we have structurally that we have a problem with this from a fundamental relativity physics standpoint, right, is because we can't conceive of not having time. Meaning, like, if that's the fundamental nature of the universe, that we don't have time, then it's hard for us to not.
We can.
Well, this is why reading the
conceive of
Bhagavad
it, but
Gita
it's
helped
just-
me.
it's
That's why I
hard to
asked, has
understand
anyone
it.
here read it? Or am I
Right.
the only one?
Time is very subjective, and it works differently here on Earth than it does out in space. So, like,
Right, that's part of
we,
relativity.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
we would
because
have
it's
to
physical.
define
Yeah, it's a
what
spatial
time
dimension.
travel
Right.
would
But
be.
what it suggests though is that because especially the observer effect suggests that consciousness is the fundamental substrate of the universe, which means that you're
I don't know if I
existing
agree with
inside
that.
of consciousness.
I don't think that
that's
accounts
incorrect.
for all of the
It accounts
space
for a
and
lot.
reality. It doesn't account for anything outside of conscious observers. I mean, you'd have to.
But except it solves for problems. The problem of not thinking it that way is that you have to think that consciousness came from rocks.
Is there something outside
It did.
of conscious
It did come from
observers?
rocks.
Is there
Well,
something
Yeah,
outside
no, it
of
didn't come from rocks.
is there
Also,
something outside of conscious observers?
also
I
for the
think yes.
times,
Otherwise, you're locked in solipsism. Are you arguing solipsism?
So
I'm not
consciousness-
arguing anything. I'm having like a good faith chit chat with my friends at night, right? So, like,
You're good. You're
that's
good.
my
Right.
question.
So,
Yeah,
so,
so-
the consciousness came from rocks. Is that what we're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay, well, so think about it this way: a rock is 99% not a rock. That's what
It's a
what
rock.
said. Like 99.9% of that rock ain't a rock.
Are you saying because the
What
atoms
else
have
would it
empty
be?
space? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well,
That's what
I
I'm
think,
saying.
but the rock itself
matter
is
within.
a platonic form, so it's the category of the identity of the rock.
Yeah, but how
right?
much do you know about that rock? What I'm saying is that you talk about people with that rock, and the people that you go to school to learn from tell you that rock is 99.9% not a rock.
Well, they probably won't word it like that. They'll probably word it like it's
I know what they
99% empty space. But
Yeah,
are
I
you
mean, I
saying
understand
that? Are you saying that that's why that consciousness can't come from a rock?
No, what I'm saying is that most of what we experience, 99.9% of it, is the collapse of the wave function, right, into a particle.
No.
I don't know about that.
I'm
Well,
still
talking about
asking, is
quantum
there
mechanics
something
when we're
outside of
Excuse
conscious?
me, guys,
I'm
I can
still
explain this very
asking.
quickly.
Hold on.
Consciousness exists within the gray matter of the brain, which functions off of electronic signals.
No.
Yes,
No.
yes,
Dude,
and it's
dude,
been mapped
dude.
as well within clinical
Great,
environments.
that's so great and wonderful. I'm trying to ask this question: Does anything exist outside of conscious observation? Can
No.
we,
Yes.
like,
I think yes.
Nope. There's no without awareness. There is nothing.
So you don't know about it.
I don't
bro.
agree with that, Rump. I don't agree with that. Why would you? So, Rump, that's
tell me why you don't. Tell me why you don't agree with it. I just want to hear why.
Because-
it doesn't solve for all the
Hold on.
fundamental problems that physics presents.
let me say why I disagree with it. I don't think we
Let-
need
let
to
the
be
host say
solving
why.
problems. I think it's
Let the host
because
say why.
it would make it would be a loop. We would eat our own tails because it would make our origin contingent on our awareness. But we evolved. We
Well, and it
came
would get
from
smaller, too,
space
because
that didn't have
over
conscious
time.
before us.
Over
Yeah, but there
time.
was
And it-
there was
well, no,
conscious
and
there
it
was
would get smaller.
Time
too,
it doesn't
because
exist.
both
no
of
no
them.
no time does
It would
exist.
get smaller because you would disregard certain information until there's only some information that you would appraise. And see, that's what's actually happening with a lot of people who are in the anti-intellectual movement. They disregard things like fake news,
No.
and it makes
Right.
our knowledge smaller and smaller. So there are things outside of our consciousness that we have to acknowledge. In fact, one of the greatest intellectuals of all time, Socrates, said that all I know is that I know nothing in compared to what there is to know. And that helped to make him wiser and wiser, realizing there were things he didn't understand that he had to continue to
You
learn.
guys are like
Yeah.
aggro and debating and shit. I'm just like trying to like
I'll
ask like
fight you.
you know.
You're good,
you
Secret.
know,
Phoenix
I'll fight
Phoenix
you.
is
Hit me
aggressive.
right between the legs right
No.
now, and that'll be the first hit.
That's
No,
just Phoenix.
blood. You want to go?
Phoenix, no over
All I'm
talking.
saying is that most people these days can't agree on what the weather is outside their window, yet they'll bring up things like Socrates and Marcus Aurelius that lived thousands of years ago.
I'm not bringing up Aurelius. Do you want to
No,
bring
I
up
know. I'm
Aurelius?
just
We can
saying-
talk about
what
him.
I'm saying is that most people also don't know what their great grandparents did for a living.
Yeah,
I
but
know
all
what my
I'm
grandparents did for a living.
hold on. All I'm saying is that reality cannot be contingent
Is he
on
trolling?
consciousness.
He's
Why
so
not?
trolling.
Yeah,
about his
Phoenix
grandparents.
is he's a funny guy.
No,
Okay,
I'm
re-
not trolling, dude. My grandparent was a carpenter.
Well, okay, but I'm just saying that why couldn't it be?
Well, it can't be contingent on consciousness because we know where consciousness comes from.
Where does it come from?
It's just a thing that happens in the body
How do you know
I
that?
disagree with that.
because we can observe it, and I think we can observe it so purely that we can watch it evolve or arrive in a child. I don't know how many of
also
you.
know that other animals have consciousness too. Like there are certain
Yeah.
types of apes that have
They might-
consciousness.
Well,
They
there's
might call it
levels.
AI.
I
the
don't care
AI
what dogs have, but I like it, and I will hug dogs. I like them.
But I mean, but AI right now, like the whole industry of AI, like they just changed what consciousness means, like on a.
I don't know about that.
No, they didn't.
Let me
Those
ask the
systems
host.
are not conscious, and they never
I didn't
will
say
be.
they are.
Not
I
our
didn't say
current
Hold
they
on.
are. But what I'm saying
Let me-
is that nobody knows what
Yeah.
it is.
Let me ask the host. Let me ask the host just so I'm clear with him, since he said, I guess he said consciousness is made by the brain. So that being, I mean, like, I don't agree, disagree, I don't care. But my question is, so do you think that like AI is conscious then? And then depending on your answer, I'll know if I need to like go to bed or not.
I think that I don't think AI is conscious, but I think it has the potential to be conscious, but only at certain levels, like not the ones we interact with, like not your instance of a chatbot. But that's not AI. Like people have to understand the AI actually exists in the data centers. So if you look at a data center and you look at the human brain, you're going to find a lot of similarities, but still the human brain is more complicated. But
Then,
it is
then great. You answer my question. So then
Okay.
my other question is, why do you think that consciousness is created by the brain?
because of the interaction
Again,
of
I'm not arguing with you or anything. I'm just asking you. In
No,
good
you're
faith.
fine.
Like I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. My thoughts is because it's consciousness arrives in the human brain because of the multiple inputs and conflicting sensory data points, and
It arrives from where?
it's in the visual cortex. It's mostly an illusion. So consciousness, as we experience it, the subjective experience is mostly an illusion. It's actually just our mind thinking about itself within, because most of our consciousness is unconscious. Most of our consciousness is nonverbal. Most of our consciousness happens without us, without all this chatter that we chit chat. You know, our visual cortex and our senses compile for a witness consciousness, but that's just a subroutine. You know, our chit-chatty mind, that's where, if you study things like Advaita Vedanta or other kinds of consciousness philosophies, they'll talk about like the lizard brain, the monkey brain, and all these kinds of different aspects of our brain. And if you don't understand those, and this is why I brought up like Zen meditation earlier, because if you do these practices and start listening to your own mind, you'll realize that most of your thoughts are just echoes. They're just emergent from your body. They're old memories and fragments and nonsense. And then you'll find the multiplicity.
But
Yeah.
what is observing that? What is observing that?
It's not much. I think that's a good question. I'm not going to pretend to have an answer on what the awareness consciousness is, but I think it's some kind of a confusion.
And the other thing is,
It's a
how can
confusion.
you be sure that what that is actually coming from a body?
Because you trace it back. I mean, brain scans, you can induce thoughts and you can watch
so
thoughts
my
happen
problem with
locally.
my problem with that is like the menu thing. I'm sure you've heard it. It's like, it
No, I
doesn't
haven't.
matter how well I describe the cheeseburger on the menu. I'm never going to be able to eat the menu, right? And so you're like basically saying like, as far as correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, oh, we can observe this, we can map this, we can see this, we can describe this, but it's like, but that doesn't mean that I can eat the menu. I can write.
I'm
how
not
much
totally
the
getting.
cheeseburger is. You see what I'm saying?
I'm not totally getting it. What are you saying?
What I would say is that how do you observe it? You'd have to observe it over time, which doesn't exist. So
Right.
therefore, right, you would have a problem with that
Well,
argument.
I disagree with that. I mean, I would say time is real. I think B theory
No,
is.
I say time is an observation, and I say time allows us to build predictive models. Predictive models, right, need data, statistical data, past statistical data to observe.
Okay, I like what Rump's saying, and then I just want to say to Apostate, like, are you like 100% sure? Like, you know you're not wrong. Like, you fucking know, like, for sure that you're right. That I'm just asking, like,
I'm
what's your vibe
pretty
on that?
sure. I'm gonna say I'm 97% confident, although
Okay, what's the 3% that makes you not think that?
because I'm in my own body. I mean, I'm my own consciousness. I'm
Could you
subject
be
to my
wrong?
body.
Like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, could you be wrong?
I could be wrong, yeah, because I'm a chemical reaction, yeah,
respect you.
yeah, for sure, no, for sure. I'm not here preaching any of this, but these are definitely my conclusions after a lot of, intentional investigation. But yeah, I mean, I acknowledge that while anybody who studies consciousness studies it from the perspective of being a conscious thinker, right? So it is kind of already a self-defeating system. Like you're trying to look at yourself, So all we can do is look for common phenomenology and then make assumptions.
But that's what science does, right? Because it's a predictive model, it uses statistics, past statistics, in order to predict. But what it doesn't count for is the outside percentages. Like, it doesn't predict emergence.
It doesn't predict anything. Yeah, science doesn't predict anything. I mean, it'll model.
It doesn't predict anything. It goes around in a circle, and it's kind of self-defeating a lot of times.
Well, I mean, science is just the practice of investigating and documenting what you find. I mean, that's really all it is.
What you see or what you observe, right?
Yeah, but that's always going to be like 1,000 steps behind, especially consciousness, because most religions have come from studies of consciousness. The studies of consciousness is the mystic philosophy behind most ancient religions. I mean, Christian mysticism exists, Islamic Sufism exists.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I took a mysticism class when I was in college.
Oh, yeah.
And it really changed my, I was really at the beginning of my journey, was I was, because every religion in the world has a mystic sect.
Okay, so
yeah.
I want to ask host Apostate and then Rump separately, please. Granted, you guys are kind of like branching off. You guys are kind of different. So what does either one of you say about what should we do then?
We should engage intentionally with our consciousness and probably prepare for unalivement.
Qualify what I said and also ask why. So start again with that and also why.
What we should do with so let me just kind of steel man your question. You're asking what I should do with my understanding of consciousness and why?
Yeah, I mean, take it however you want. Like, what do you, okay, then what then? Like, so you have your view. So based on your view.
Well, based off my...
Right.
Yeah, based off my view, I exist in my body, and that means I should take care of my body, and my body will take care of my mind.
Why?
And this matters because this informs my entire lived subjective experience. If I want good or desire good, or if I have goals for the future and I want to obtain them, then it matters how I feed my body-mind relationship and how I'm positioning myself for success. And I think this is, that's about it. That's my philosophy.
So basically you want to feel good.
I want to achieve good because humans are visionary creatures. We think of the future. We have goals and desires that are in what we perceive of the future. So we want to obtain them. That's what makes us conscious. That's what makes us distinct from like an animal who doesn't plan like next Thursday. A human has visions for...
You want to feel good and do good and whatever that is to you, and I don't even care to argue. Who cares what, who cares, right? But so you want to do good and you want to feel good, basically.
I don't know if that's a fair reduction. I don't know if that's a fair reduction because I think I see kind of why you're trying to steelman it that way, and I would say that
I'm just really asking an honest question, and then after you tell me your thing, I want Rump to tell me what he thinks.
Okay, let me just put a quick button on what I was saying, and then I want to hear what Rump says. But I think it does extend beyond what I was just saying to others as well. And I think as a rational agent, someone who does recognize that my subjective experience is in my body and in my mind, then I'm rational to acknowledge that that's the same for other people. And so participating well socially is where the personal ego kind of extends to the superego.
So would you agree that it's thou shalt not violate? Like, thou shalt not violate. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure if that's a complete. What do you mean, violate what?
Like, in terms of morality, like.
Yeah, because
Ten Commandments, right? But like, how about just like don't violate? Like, don't violate other people, right?
Sure. I mean, to not cause harm or to not disrupt others or to not affect others' agencies, to not do what would be considered quote unquote immoral does matter because everything you do feeds your subjective experience.
I'm not saying immoral. I'm saying don't violate. It's very different. Like you can be gay all you want or drink alcohol all you want. Who cares? But we're saying like, don't go and violate someone else's ability to do that.
Right. I think
Wait
those.
a minute.
Yeah, I think those actions do affect
Ability to be
you.
gay? How do I do that?
You do whatever you want, Phoenix.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is.
How do I do that? I thought that was just who someone is. Is that like doing jumping jacks, or how do you do gay?
You can take whatever action you want.
I heard it was driving a Miata. I think if you drive a Miata, that's how you are.
No, there's a lot of people that aren't gay.
That's how you express gayness.
Yeah, driving a Miata.
Yeah, But I think eudaimonia and like social cohesion and morality are justified by the understanding of the personal subjective experience and the recognition that that's the same for others.
So are you allowed, so does that, can you build that up to say that then now you can go and like stop other people from doing harm to others or something, like a Batman?
Like, are you asking if there's an ought, like should I prevent harm?
No, I'm just asking you, like, would you be someone to be like, be a Batman?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I could, I think of myself more like Kick-Ass in that movie where he didn't have any powers yet, and then he got beat up in the street.
That'd be awesome.
That would be my fate. Yeah, I wouldn't survive.
Because in CrossFit they do all sorts of different exercises, and then they say we're doing CrossFit. So like, would I have to be good at fashion and then know how to paint my nails?
Or be a billionaire and fight crime? I mean, come on, that's pretty good.
If I have to, no, dude, there's gay people who aren't billionaires.
Are they gay Batmans and aren't billionaires?
Secret, you're pretty quiet. But
I'm sorry. What does Rump think that we're supposed to be doing then? And then why?
It's much simpler, I think, actually, which is that it's more because basically, because we're all part of the same consciousness, we're basically God sparks, if you want to put it in religious terms, right? When it says in the Bible, right, that God created man in his own image, it was literal. We are literally creators, and so all we have to do is follow our own preferences.
So you think that we should like create then? We should create stuff?
What I mean is move towards what you prefer, right? Which basically takes you away.
Like Bashar. You like Bashar?
So that's how we do gay.
That's very Bashar. Your highest passion, is that what he says?
It's really literally
your highest joy.
There you go.
Basically just all you have to do is move towards what you prefer, because what happens when people, aren't Bashar? It's not Bashar. It's the way that physics works. You move towards.
No, I agree. So would you agree with the statement that there is no negation? There is no. How do you feel about that statement? There is no negation.
Well, there's no negative force. So
guys, that's not true. I've moved towards women that I like, and then they didn't like me back, so I had to move away to be polite. Like otherwise, it'd be creeping them out.
Right, but don't let it bother you. Like my dislike of people, I like everybody. I mean,
I have to let it bother me. If I didn't let it bother me, that could be like really bad.
What I'm saying is that my dislike of somebody is really just directly related to my ability to get away from them.
Okay, they didn't necessarily dislike me, but they didn't like me the way I liked them. Does that make sense?
What I'm saying is that there's things in our lives that we have to get through. But all those things are mirrors of things that you have to like figure out, because everything is a projection. It's coming from inside you anyway. And so all you gotta do is figure out the keys to get through it.
So you agree with what I'm saying about there's not really negation. Like you can think not this, not this, not this, but the more you think not this, you're kind of creating it. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. What you're saying, Secret, I do agree with that.
Yeah, totally.
So
that's a secret. It's basically a secret, right? Yep.
It's interesting how Rump and the host, like, even though there's definite differences, there is like a common agreement though on like going toward what you prefer and doing the good, type of a thing, right?
Right, because
you can say it's very similar.
I think
everyone's very similar.
I'm 48 years old, and I've been doing this kind of 28 years. I had a what do you call mystical experience when I was 20, but I mean, basically, I've been walking a path where I just get surrounded by more and more people I like.
I'm like, dude, I'm like you, bro. I like barefoot walk every day in the desert and all that,
But again, like, I may not like you, but it doesn't mean I have to be around you. I can go somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I do use AI now and then. I just don't. I'm not as big into it as some people. Do any of you use AI?
Fuck no, I don't use it for anything.
I'm building my own AI platform right now, actually.
I use it for work.
Rump, do you use AI?
Oh yeah, I'm building my own AI platform right now. I own a business.
I literally just played music and sang for like 3 hours in a city, like for people. Like I just play music for people and walk around barefoot.
Are you busking? Nice. Are you a busker?
That's really nice.
And then I teach yoga and I like the plant medicines and all that crap. So you guys have a blessed night. I'll talk to y'all soon.
Oh, you've been great. Yeah, give me a follow. Thanks, Secret. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, following.
I'm going to see, there's someone requesting up. I haven't seen them in the chat. I don't know what they want to contribute, but I'm going to let them up real quick and do an intro. The Bomba Trader is going to connect. I would like to talk about the prompt. I think that was fun. Oh, they did. Oh, did they connect? Bomba Trader, did you connect? Are you 18 plus?
I don't.
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, you are a little quiet. Kind of, but you're pretty quiet. If you want to get your volume up and then let me know. Do you want to answer the prompt question, or did you have something specific you wanted to contribute?
Well, we were talking about, I've been listening to you guys for a while, basically just soaking in what you're saying about consciousness and stuff like that. I'm also an 18-year biblical student and teacher, so I think a lot in terms of the Bible, especially in terms of consciousness,
That's
and
interesting.
one of
I
the
didn't
things,
know the Bible had a lot to say on that, but yeah, go ahead.
well, when we look at the verse about, the Bible says that there is no consciousness in the grave. So what we can gain from that is that consciousness does require life, and that's why, when people talk about will AI ever acquire consciousness, I would have to say no, because AI will never acquire life.
Okay, hold on, mate. How
I
will
have some
AI
questions.
recognize itself as it actually is and having independent thoughts? That could be a thing for consciousness, maybe.
And if there's
I mean,
anything you can do for your
just,
volume, the Bomba Trader, if there's anything you can do for your volume, you are still a little quiet.
it's probably just my mic. Am I
It
still
got
quiet now?
it got a little better. Go ahead.
Got a little better? Okay. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I'm just basing this on, like what I've studied from the Bible. And basically, our consciousness is learned, it's basically a conditioning. Um, there's things that you may uh, accept as being okay by your consciousness that I might not think is okay by my consciousness,
You read the
simply
book of
by,
Job?
I have read the book of Job, yes.
So what do you think about hurting an innocent person for a little wager? Personally, with my consciousness, I don't think that's really cool, but what do you think?
Well, I think you're referring to how,
I'm referring
God
to
used,
Job in the book of Job, yes.
right, and how God used him as a pawn. But we have to remember one of the things that kept Job from meeting his demise was that he never attributed folly to God. He knew that even though
Before
he didn't understand who the attack was coming from,
Can I?
because if you recall, go ahead.
Well, can I make a statement that I as far as like, because I too think about biblical terms, right? And when I think about the idea of having a book that you need to find, right, doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Meaning like you got to find a book in order to figure out how to do life. I mean, the idea that you have a creator that is like all knowing and omnipresent creates something that doesn't know how to be.
Books can help, can't they?
I mean, the reason that you can't find the instruction book for life is because you are the instruction book.
Before we talk about books, can I quickly just wrap up the kind of how the conversation got here? And I want to get the Bomba Trader's thoughts on this, is specifically on consciousness and biblicality, like a biblical perspective. Do you think, the Bomba Trader, that consciousness continues after death?
No, it doesn't. Not according to the Bible.
Is
But
that
then again, biblically, when we die, we are dead until three. One is the rapture. The second one is the resurrection of the just.
so? Are you an
The
annihilationist?
resurrection of the unjust.
Do you think everyone gets annihilated?
Well, I don't know what that term means. All I know is that Jesus
It means both body and soul being
referred
destroyed.
to as the first fruits of all who have died.
Mr. Trader,
Well,
annihilationism
the
means
body
both the body
goes.
and soul is destroyed.
Yes.
So do you feel the body and soul are destroyed?
Well, yes. And when you look at it that way, correct. Well, soul
I
is
know, it's not
simply
how I see it. I'm
breath.
just talking about annihilationism.
Nefesh
Do you think
Chai.
that the body and
Your connection's a little crackly, the Bomba Trader. You're breaking up a tiny bit.
That it's destroyed. It's not so much
So it
that our
exists
soul
even
is
if it's
destroyed. Everything returns back. Well, soul is simply our breath life. When we breathe our last, that's our.
So you're not an
that's
annihilationist.
it,
Okay.
you know.
So let me
And
follow up on
breath
that.
life returns back to the air. Our body returns back to the dust.
How
What
does
you're
that?
referring to is a lot of people want to enter. You know, you're talking about spirit.
Well, I want to know because
but spirit.
how do you reconcile that with judgment and the concepts of like eternal rewards, mansions in heaven? Because the Bible does talk, like Jesus talks about afterlife conscious continuation, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know, you'd have to basically show that to me. But you know, when God created man in His image, He was referring to Adam and Eve because it turns around and says, and so He created them in His image. And we learn from the body, or from the Bible, that God's is spirit. That is His image. So what He did was He created His spirit upon Adam and Eve, which basically separated them from all the other mammals in the field, which allowed them to have dominion over the animals because they were then body, soul, and spirit. Now that spirit is what survives us.
But how can God be omnipresent and not us be a part of God? How can it be separate from us?
How can God be omnipresent?
And
You're
be
asking
separate from
the
us.
Model T to explain Henry Ford. I'm afraid I
Well,
cannot
no, what I'm saying
answer
is,
that
how can it
question.
be something outside of us if it's everywhere?
That would be clever, but the Model T does not talk about Ford. You claim to be created by God, and then you can speak on God. The Model T does not do that about Ford. You are talking about your supposed creator, God. That's the difference.
Well, I mean, God wrote a book that tells us about Him and teaches us about Him, and that's how I can speak about God.
Then wrote a book, yes.
I'm still kind of confused about the consciousness thing because Jesus on the cross told the guy that he was going to see him in paradise after death, right? I mean, what is that?
Yes, but that doesn't mean that he immediately went to paradise, and that's a matter of translation where they misplaced.
It's a matter of semantics, buddy.
Well, does that mean?
It's a matter of punctuation in the Bible.
Yep, that's what semantics are, man. Trying to mess with words to make a different point than what it actually says. Semantics.
Well, it's pretty simple. He said, "Today you will be with me in paradise."
Verily I say unto thee today, comma, thou shalt be with me in paradise.
He didn't speak in Old English.
Well, yes, but it's the comma. If you recall, I mean, if you studied the original manuscripts, there were no punctuation whatsoever. So any punctuation was added by man. So we're
That's not
allowed.
correct. Apostrophes were included in Hebrew.
Okay, but commas were not.
Okay, yeah, but not all punctuation is just commas.
Right. So, and we have to look at the time. It's called Orientalisms. To say, verily I say unto thee today.
Did you just say Orientalisms?
Did Jesus ever claim, like, himself that he was literally
just
the son
Hebrew? That's all it is.
But did Jesus ever claim himself that he was literally the Son of God?
Yes.
No. He didn't literally claim he was the Son of God.
Are you sure about that?
Check it out.
Okay. But anyway, back to the punctuation. You know, for us to say for real, like, yeah, man, for real, I'm being for real, is equal to him saying, verily I say unto thee today. It's the same.
Yes, I know.
You know, it's a weighty. So what he actually said was, verily I say unto thee today, comma,
the text
thou shalt be with me in paradise.
So what was he meaning? What did he mean by that?
Translation from Latin.
But regardless, what was meant?
Well,
it meant that in the future day, when there was a paradise, which is future, that he would be there with them.
Well, he said today. Didn't he say today?
He did not go to paradise. He went into the grave for 3 days and 3 nights.
That's more consciousness after death. I mean, it's funny because just to clarify real quick, I'm challenging you on it because you come from a biblical perspective, although I personally am kind of an annihilationist, just like in a naturalist sense, where I think most of the subjective human experience does just stay in the body and go return to the dust. But I think the Bible does say, I mean, Jesus said, today you'll be with me in paradise. I mean, he made it a time, and then Jesus going...
Not what he said, and I've just explained to you what he said. Verily I say unto thee today.
He did not speak Old English. Why do you keep saying it in Old English and
Well,
attributing that to the Christ?
I wonder what the NRSV UE says.
Because I'm reading from the Bible that, you know,
You're reading from the
I don't
King
know
James
how to say
Version,
that
which is in Old
in
English.
Hebrew.
We do not speak Old English, and neither did the Christ.
King James.
But how do you... Okay, so I'm not going to... So I don't actually grant the Bible.
But
I'm not...
That is the language that it was translated into, which was Old English in 1611. So what's the problem with me using the words that come out of the Bible?
Because the Christ didn't speak English.
Okay, he spoke Hebrew, but I don't know Hebrew. I know, verily I say unto thee today, comma, thou shalt be with me in paradise. Talking about future tense.
I want to give a bit of a concession to you.
Today
Man,
you shall be with me in paradise, because Jesus didn't go to paradise.
Okay, I mean, that's fair.
Is it okay if I concede a bit?
I want to keep challenging on this Christian afterlife concept, because I think even if it wasn't in that day, Jesus was promising some kind of reunion between them two.
Yes.
Even if it was distant in the future. I mean, that's still...
Correct.
Does anybody know the concept?
Guys, because it's very hard to understand these things, especially looking at Old English when we don't even speak Old English currently. So that's my concession. It's very hard to know.
Does anybody know the concept of like Christ consciousness, which is basically that Christ was actually trying to teach people how to be him. He literally bodied, and he figured out, hacked the code.
Well, that's why the Christ wanted to be a rabbi, but it's not about Christ consciousness. It's about just being a decent person. That's why he would use parables.
Those were the things he was teaching. But what I'm saying is that what he was trying to teach people is how to be Christ.
Well, we're to be Christ-like, because in the New Testament we're taught, let this mind that was in Christ be in you also.
Yes.
You know, let this consciousness, let this mindset be in you that was in Christ.
And so if didn't he say, I am the way?
I'm sorry, did he say I am the way?
I am the way, right?
I am the way.
Yep. But could it have been that he was sitting around a bunch of people and he said, repeat after me, I am the way?
Well, he said, no man cometh unto the Father but by me, referring to our future.
I want to press on that. I don't want to get away from the consciousness after death conversation, because it seems like you kind of seem like an annihilationist, but you're giving some kind of special privilege to some kind of possible future state of re-consciousness. Like there is a future consciousness.
Yes.
Okay, so is that embodied, or is that in heaven? Is that in heaven?
No, because heaven's not separate.
Heaven's not. What do you mean?
Well, the Bible said that too.
Technically, there is no heaven where the dead people are, because biblically, the dead people are in Raven. They're in Sheol, they're in Hades, they're in hell, which is all the same word for Raven. The dead are dead until
Sheol is not the same word as Hades.
So how does judging the dead work? How do you judge the dead?
As the first fruits of all have died. He is the only one God has resurrected. And
How did
you believe in Ares then, because you believe in Hades?
Well, Hades is just Greek for Raven.
I think it's just like getting buried in the dirt. Right. So, what was I going to say? Oh, so judgment. I want to talk about. So I'm still kind of stuck on this consciousness after death. So consciousness after death. How do you have judgment, and how do the promises of eternal reward and all that stuff? How does that play in without continuation of consciousness after death?
I would agree with what you're saying. in a different angle, right? Which is
Well,
that
we
how is it possible? How is it possible that we live maybe 70, 80 years or whatever, that we get one chance at like eternal something?
They do it the mystery of faith.
Yeah, but
Boo.
eternal something, like we only get one shot.
yeah, basically, for it is appointed unto man once to live,
Yeah,
but once
doesn't
to
make
die.
sense.
So
Doesn't make
basically,
sense.
we get one shot at this. So
Yeah,
we
so
have
like
to be
80
very
years
careful.
with eternity is what makes sense. I mean, because eternity is a long time compared to our lifetime.
Exactly. Yes.
Right.
What? So what is
But it's
what is
everlasting
eternity in
life
your
to us? It's not eternity. It's everlasting life.
the Bomber Trader? What does that mean?
Eternity is a long time. Not to God, because God can do
Hold on.
anything.
I'm not granting any
You
of
need
this.
more faith.
I wanna challenge this. What does eternal life mean, Bomber Trader, in a kind of an annihilationist worldview, or the Christian, or from your perspective?
Well, I mean,
what does that
God is
mean?
eternal. We are not eternal, but we will have everlasting life from the point that, let's look at, the first event, the rapture, the gathering together, whatever you want to call it. Paul says that those who are dead in Christ, it says that this corruption shall put on incorruption, and the mortal shall put on mortality. So basically, at the time that Christ returns, people that are dead in the grave, they will become, incorruption.
Can you demystify that? Can you demystify that for me? So let me just tell you my perspective. I don't grant the Bible, so I'm just challenging your worldview from outside. I'm not doing an internal critique at all. So I just want to know what you think that means in reality. So Christ coming back, resurrection, returning bodies from the grave, and then eternal life. Well, now demystify that. If I'm not going to grant biblical language or mysticism, I want to know what do you think that actually means?
Well, it means, for us, those that will be in that gathering together,
What's the gathering?
that we are either when Jesus returns to gather the saints.
What does that mean? What do you?
People call it the rapture. It's rapturos.
What is this?
It's a time when we live in an administration that's called the Grace Administration. It's the fifth administration biblically. And it's called the Grace Administration because in this administration we're saved by grace, not of works, lest any man should boast. That administration will end when Christ returns for his saints, when the dead shall, when the corruption shall put on incorruption, and the mortal shall put on immortality. So if we're alive, we're going to physically be changed. We're going to get the same spiritual body that Jesus received after his resurrection.
So since I don't grant that, so from my perspective,
point, we will begin our everlasting life.
Okay, so to me, this does sound like mythology, and any kind of claim about future events feels like woo to me. So if you were to tell me what you think is going to... Well, I just want to know, like, if you were going to demystify that and you're going to describe what you think is actually going to happen, are you saying that a guy is going to come onto the world and people in the graves will come alive and crawl out of those graves, and that's going to be real?
That'd be scary. That'd be a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Have you seen Nicolas Cage?
Yes.
Well, that's what the book says.
That's all fair. That's completely fair. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a movie with Nicolas Cage, and it's called Left Behind, and he's a pilot who's cheating on his wife, and then everybody disappears, and there's clothes around on the airport floor, and he's wondering what happened. And it's because they all got naked and went up to heaven, but he got left behind because he was cheating on his wife. You see? So that's why it's going to happen that way.
Okay, but I don't mean to be funny, and I know I don't mean to be funny. I do actually want to know, like, is this a sincerely held belief?
What I would say is that nobody gets left behind.
Cage, sorry.
Nobody gets left behind is what I would say. And also back to directly to your question, which is why is there something rather than nothing? right? What
Yeah.
I would say is that it's the whole thing about, you know, if there's a tree that falls in the forest and nobody around to hear it, right? Does it make a sound, right? And what I would say is that no, it doesn't, because there is no tree.
I would say it does.
No, and that's where we. That's
I can defend that. I can defend that too. But I don't. But wait. I can. Yes, I love that topic. I do. I can defend it. But I want to hear the bomber trader answer my question. I don't mean to be silly. I don't mean to be funny about it. I just want to know, your sincerely held belief is that this man is going to come back and people will crawl out of graves. Is that your sincerely held belief?
Well, they will be, raised out of the graves.
How do you ground that? How do you ground that for someone who doesn't grant magical thinking? And I'm not saying you're doing magical thinking, but
What is magic, by the way?
Well, we have the example of Jesus being resurrected from the dead. At that point, God, he was dead.
Allegedly.
For 3 days and 3 nights.
Allegedly.
Well, see, I have the proof that he, was raised from the dead.
Okay, let's grant. Okay, I can grant resurrection, because I think you could say, like, we don't have the technology. Like, with sufficient technology, you can revive a body. So I'm going to grant you resurrection from a scientific perspective. Now, take it the next step.
But instead of just us becoming back alive with our physical, organic carbon body, we will receive a spiritual body.
What does that mean?
That's, I couldn't tell you specifically.
Is this like a memory card with our memories on it?
Nicolas Cage is funny. He plays a
gosh,
sexy
Phoenix.
pilot who goes over to the bar in the airport, and he takes off his wedding ring to hide that he's married to the woman next to him. He goes, "Oh, I'm Nicolas Cage. I'm hit on you." And she goes, "I saw you take off your wedding ring. That's some serious sin."
You're trying to derail my questions with the bomber trader.
Sorry. Yeah. So how do they become after they don't have a carbon body? Sorry. Going on.
Right. Well, we receive our spiritual bodies at that point. We're gathered together up.
Can you ground that? Can you ground that? I ground that though. I mean, you say spiritual bodies, but that word is essentially meaningless if we don't kind of come together on a sort of specific meaning, right? I want to know what does that mean?
Well, I mean, Jesus's body, we have his example, what Jesus could do in his spiritual body.
Allegedly.
People were still able to touch him.
But what does that mean, spiritual body? What are you saying? What are you saying, spiritual body? How is that distinct from the bodies we exist in now, the physical bodies?
Well,
I'm a physical body.
Instead of like the best way I've heard it explained, and please, bear with me here, is that blood will no longer course through our veins. It will be like a spiritual, aliving. So whatever, that, is keeping our body alive, it's spiritually based.
Can I ask you if are you a Mormon?
And at that point, spirit never dies. You know what I mean?
Are you a Mormon?
No, I'm a non-denominational, non-sectarian.
Okay. I still think the word spiritual is vague. So are you saying that?
Wait a minute.
So
you believe in Nicolas Cage too?
Well, so let me take a different stance on it when it comes to science, right? Like science itself, and then physics, which is like when we're looking at physics, and I was talking about quantum physics before, we understand these different understandings of things. One of the things I really subscribe to is that as long as something that as long as it obeys the laws of physics, right? Which what I'm talking about. Like everything else is an engineering problem.
Yeah, really. I think resurrection is just an engineering problem.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that so we're saying the same thing, I think.
Yeah, I can grant resurrection. I can, no problem. But there's a lot of other stuff I don't understand what it means. Like the word spiritual just kind of feels like a placeholder, and I don't mean to be dismissive.
That's
but
what fathers were hiding from us. That's why I'm.
What I'm saying is that if I could shoot lightning bolts out of my fingertips, right, and I could do that. Like the last thing, like the first thing I wouldn't think about is how I did it, like from a mechanic standpoint. I might try to figure it out later.
We can conduct electricity. That's not magical.
No, what I'm saying is if I could
sounds like to me you stepped on a power line.
Yeah, but if I can fly or whatever, right? What I'm saying is if you can fly like you were Superman,
right?
You might not be as bothered by the physics, but the physics are still within that. Meaning it's not magic. It's just physics we don't understand yet, or we haven't have a framework for yet.
Right.
That makes sense?
Well, when you look at the ordered cosmos that God put into place in Genesis, that spirit is
I don't grant Genesis, not at all.
under that cosmos, that ordered universe.
I also don't grant an ordered universe.
I grant I've seen Nicolas Cage in movies.
What is this, Cage? What are you talking? What movie is this? What are you
talking about?
I'm not sure.
Behind,
but
Left Behind.
But some of the things that we can read that Jesus was able to do, he was able to just appear in a room. He was able to pass through things. And we have to remember that when God ascended him, it says that he passed through the heavens. And it took him 10 days to do this. So whatever he had to pass through to get to God, to sit at his right hand, this body was able to survive all this space travel through the universe, the radiation and everything. Stuff that our physical body today just could not, handle.
Exactly. I think Nicolas Cage was a wizard in Season of the Witch.
Well,
but I do like Nicolas Cage. I'll give you that. But
right. But what I'm saying is that if we're discovering things all the time, and or whatever, we're figuring this stuff out, is that things that happen that we don't understand completely, very well do obey the laws of physics. We just don't understand it. It's like metaphysics is just undiscovered physics in a lot of ways.
Let me tell you why this kind of freaks me out. Because if I were to grant these mechanics, which I have no problem doing, like if reviving a body is just chemistry. So if we can do all that, and if someone revives me, like at some point in the future, and my mind comes back, and they're gonna like judge me based off my actions in life, I don't consent. Like that feels so invasive. Like when I'm unalive, I just want to unalive. Like I'm not afraid of that. I would just like to go dark and kind of return to clay and be done. And why can't I just have that? Like I feel like the whole Christian thing is guaranteeing that you're not getting that. The Bible says, I'm going to yank you out of the grave, and I'm going to talk to you about your naughtiness, and I'm going to spank you or not spank you. And I'm just like, well, I don't consent. Like, why would I want that?
And let me touch on that real quick before we get off of that. You just may get that because, the church's religion likes to talk about this hellfire and brimstone, and if you don't go to heaven, you're going to go to hell. Well, that hell doesn't exist. The Bible states that those, like when if you don't make it, okay, the Bible says you simply die the second death. It's the thanatos. It's the same word about our first death, our natural death. So in essence, if you don't make it, let's just say you don't make it, you're just going to die again. You're going to.
Can I just opt out? Can I opt out? Can I tell the church now? Like, can I write him a letter? Like, just don't bring me back. Like, just don't.
Don't write him a letter. Yeah, don't write him a letter. That's more engaging.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, there's going to be 3 events when the dead will be made alive again. The first one, for those of us who believe that God raised Jesus from the dead and have believed unto righteousness, okay, that's what the new birth requires in our day and time, our administration of grace. We're saved by grace, not of works, lest any man should boast.
Right.
We don't have to work for it. We simply have to acknowledge the fact that God raised Jesus from the dead.
What I always tell people is
I have so many questions on that. But go ahead, Rump. Go ahead, Rump.
The only path to God is through yourself. And if anybody tells you any different, they're selling something.
What does Bible stand for?
Well, that's not what my Bible says.
I know that.
Bible stands for
entitled to
guys,
your opinion.
this is cool.
Okay.
Basic instructions before leaving Earth. Did you like the letters they line up? They line up.
I'm not saying that there's not something good to say in it, but what I'm saying is that the people that tell you that you
But no,
need
like they line up. If you go BIBLE, it goes to basic instructions before leaving Earth. You ever heard of that?
Yeah,
one?
Bible.
That was pretty good.
Everybody but
I
you.
like that.
That was a good one.
What I'm saying is that everybody but you is a middleman. And the middleman are the one controlling what you think about yourself. And all you got to do is be yourself. That's it. That's it.
Well, to a degree,
that sounds way better.
Because, let's say you're not in that gathering together, let's say your works, by your works, you can be found righteous by your works. And if you're that good person.
Right. But how do you be born and not be right? How do you be born, right, and have to figure out how to be somebody else besides yourself? It doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah, I don't even grant free will,
do you
to
think
be
you
honest.
need to become?
Well,
that's
don't
my
have to
question.
you have to be yourself. That's what it is. That's it. You have
Well,
to.
yeah. You have to be yourself. You can't be anyone else. But
can't be
what
anyone
makes
else.
you think that you have to be someone else? Where are you getting that
The
from?
Bible tries to teach us to be somebody else because it says we're flawed. That when we come out of, because that's what basically they're saying is that.
Yeah, Bible says we're dirty.
Yeah, it says we're dirty to begin.
Well, yeah. Well, we're born under sin because sin is in the blood, and when we receive that seed from our
Allegedly. I think that's so
So,
I think that's very toxic.
It's
toxic. That's why Jesus had to be immaculately conceived so that he would not be born under sin.
We call that a parthenogenic birth. If he was parthenogenically birthed, oh my gosh,
The
Phoenix.
Declaration of Independence, and he also was a wizard in Season of the Witch, and then he was also a pilot who cheated on his wife and left behind.
Are you saying he's Jesus?
No, I'm saying he's many different people. He's not just himself. Yeah, so he's an actor. He can be different.
Is this like the
people in
Trinity?
movies.
Is this an allegory for the Trinity? Is that
No,
what you're
there's
doing?
more than 3 movies with Nicolas Cage in them.
Well, see, that's another big thing about religion that's not correct. Is the Trinity, but we don't have to go there.
Well, I'm going to agree with you on that one. Yeah, sin though, I think is really toxic. That kind of actually it really irks me. Like and I don't like I get that that's what the Bible says, and I think that's just silly. I mean, who looks at a baby and agrees with that? Oh, this baby is not pure. Well, what are you talking about? Of course it is. It's pure because it's like essentially empty. Yeah. So but the Bible, it seems to be claiming, and the Bomba Trader, I would love your thoughts on this. It seems to me that the Bible is claiming that the birth process is dirty. And that the woman is unclean. The Old Testament talks about this all the time, that the woman is unclean during menstruation, the birth process is dirty, and the humans are born tainted, and they have to be washed in some kind of blood ritual by Jesus or something. And it's like, what is this? It just feels gross. And not to get animated, but...
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and a lot of that's Old Testament and has to do with blood,
yeah, but the New Testament affirms it, though. That's the whole point of Jesus.
Yeah, but
well, not anymore. We no longer have to do sacrifices. Jesus Christ fulfilled the law in His flesh. We don't have to live by that law anymore.
Well, we live under a human sacrifice. Jesus was a human sacrifice, right?
Yeah, he was the sacrificial lamb.
And what are we covered in to become clean?
Is our redemption.
His blood. We're covered in His blood.
We were redeemed by His blood.
Yeah, I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, it's just like...
made that shit up.
Can you ground that for me? Like, how do you explain that to someone who just hears it from the outside and says, gross?
You gotta steal the Declaration of Independence.
What I think is that the fact that the idea that Christ died for our sins is very convenient for people that sin, and then try to control other people with it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Right.
Well, I mean, that's why we have grace now, because we are weak in the flesh. There are 2 types of sins. There are sins of commission and there are sins of omission. Sins of commission is when we do the things that we are instructed not to do. Sins of omission is when we don't do the things that we have been commanded to do.
So how is a baby? How is a
Declaration of Independence? We have to do it to find.
Thank you, Phoenix. Very good. How is a baby guilty of either omission or commission? Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to do with God. It has to do with, we got to remember there's a dark side here. Yeah. Okay. There's an adversary that put us under the curse of death. All right. When Adam and Eve sinned, it says that sickness entered into the blood.
I thought God
by
cursed
sin,
them with death.
and
Didn't God
death
say that?
by
Isn't that
sickness.
God? Wasn't that God himself? Didn't he say you're going to die? That was him.
Well,
right?
they died spiritually. That's why, that connects with the fact that, when God created them in his image, he created spirit upon them. But that spirit could only exist as long as they remained in fellowship with him.
So let me get ahead of.
When they broke that fellowship in the garden, then they lost that spirit. And we see that because, and bear with me here, up to that time, God spoke directly to Adam and Eve, just like they were looking at each other talking. After they sinned, we see where it goes to where they hear God walking in the garden. So their senses are involved now. And from that point on, God had to come into concretion unto men, just like the burning bush with Moses, the pillar of fire.
I feel like this is getting
by
theological.
day or by night, the
I
cloud
want
by day.
to bring it back. This is
Angels are God coming into concretion.
hold on.
We
This
don't
is
have
kind
that
of
anymore.
Well,
this is kind of
guys.
theology. Hold on. Oh, Phoenix,
I
what do
wanted
you?
to address that theology, guys.
Well, I
Because
don't
the
want to get too
pagans-
far from.
Well, hold on. I just gotta say this. The pagans,
From death.
they made the Wicker Man, and they put Nicolas Cage inside, and he goes, the bees, not the bees,
Very
Really
good.
good
I
acting, by the way.
hold on. I do have two things to say.
Paganism,
Let me
because we're gonna
me.
get got by the bees, like Nicolas Cage helped us to
So-
understand.
Okay, I have two things to say. Hold on. One thing is the Obama. You seem to have a little tiny bit of feedback. There's a little bit of a tinny feedback in your mic. It's okay, but it is there. But also, I want to address something you specifically said, and I don't want to go into theology, but you were saying it's death is because of the adversary. But what I want to ask is, how can anything not be God's fault? Because wasn't Jesus like from the foundations of the earth? Wasn't this all the plan? So how could anything not be specifically attributed to the God of the story?
I would agree with that.
Adam and Eve could have lived forever. They had access to the tree of life, and their blood was pure.
But was
That's
that
why
God's
they
will?
lived as long as they did back then, was because of the pureness of their blood. But as generations continue to pass on and more sin entered into the blood, men became to live less and less. Okay.
What do you mean?
So
What do you mean by
God's
sin?
original intent, but God has foreknowledge. Okay. God knew that we would need a redeemer. Okay. And that redeemer was Jesus Christ, and he had to wait until a woman believed to bring Jesus Christ to pass. Jesus Christ only existed in God's foreknowledge up until the day of his birth. Okay.
I don't know that.
But
So I would disagree with a lot of
I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, though.
Well, my question was, I mean, we can let someone else also ask a question, but my question was, you blamed the current condition with death and all that on an adversary, but you have to just keep going because this is God's plan. So it's God who did this.
Well, because the one thing I want to point out too is when we're talking about the theology in this conversation is that I do find that when because we're talking about symbolism, right, which helps us ground in some of these concepts, because it's hard to talk about these things without some sort of symbology, without some sort of symbolism, right, to kind of talk about them. So I mean, as far as the Eden thing goes, I mean, I agree with the symbology of what you're saying about the eternal life, right? Because I would say the eternal life is that which is outside of time. But I think what was created symbolically within the Garden of Eden was free will, which is what we experience in our
Could it have been?
incarnation.
Could it have been free will if it had punishments even of death? I mean, that's not free will.
We think it's punishments, but it's not actually punishments that are happening to us.
Well, death. Yeah, woman was cursed with the pain of childbirth, and then we were all cursed with animosity with the serpent.
Well,
We don't even know what a woman
that was
is.
part of the story, but I don't believe that part.
Well, that's pick it. Yeah. How can you can't do that?
Nicolas
it doesn't
Cage,
make
he
sense
stole
to
the
me.
Declaration, and they said don't do that. He didn't think those rules were important, you see. So he's being like Nicolas Cage. when Nicolas Cage stole the Declaration of Independence. So that's how you get to the treasure.
Oh my
No, I
gosh.
mean,
Some knowledge.
Oh my
there's
gosh.
selective parts. I'm just trying to figure out what makes the most sense.
It makes sense to steal the Declaration if it's got the code on the back. See?
I feel like Postato has some thoughts. Postato, do you have some thoughts you were trying to chime in a second ago?
Oh,
It all
I've
ties
got a
back to
couple of
Nicolas
thoughts
Cage.
on what Bama's been saying, but
Yeah.
it's mainly
Yeah, I'm grilling Bama.
sin sin in the Bible originally isn't described as an action or anything like that. It's actually a physical thing. Like it's described like a monster that hunts us. And I know like my opinion is skewed by my near death experience, but um like sin would be the adversary. It wouldn't be Satan.
It would
Aren't,
be what?
aren't those words
And
the same?
Adam and Eve didn't actually commit the first sin because in the Bible, sin doesn't come out until after they've been kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and it's Cain and Abel, and Cain actually does the first sin, which is
That makes sense.
murdering.
Well, technically, the original sin is when Lucifer attempted to usurp authority over God.
Sin is a violation of a
But
covenant.
that,
Anyway,
well, that would mean that sin happened in
I
heaven.
apologize quickly. I have hypoglycemia. If I seem a little bit loopy, we should take Nicolas Cage seriously. However, Apostate, I wanted to ask you something. Are you part of the rainbow community after being involved with the Mormons?
That's a pretty intense question, Phoenix. I'm going to
sorry, you
answer
don't have
that.
to answer if
No,
you
it's
don't
okay.
want.
I'm going to answer it very unfairly, and I'm going to say that I believe everybody is. That's what I'm going to say.
I believe that.
That's awesome. Does that have to do with gender identity?
No.
Okay, what? Okay, so why do you think everybody is part of the rainbow community?
That's an enormous pivot. I would rather
I
not.
feel like it's a meaningful one.
I feel like we should. Maybe the panel can have thoughts if final thoughts on what we were talking about. I did want to grill Bama on the nature of sin. I don't know if we want to hard pivot into Pride Month. I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind that, but
part of the community. Congratulations. I support you, and I apologize for being a little bit off the wall.
From my worldview, you are as well. My worldview literally is everybody is. That's my worldview.
I believe that.
A little off the wall. Everyone's a little off the wall.
So
I would buy that. Yes.
how is everyone part of the rainbow community though?
I think I just have my own definition of the rainbow community being inclusive of every person. It's just I don't
insist they're part of it, right?
That's what I would say. Yes, I would say that
So
cis
it's not
straight
so much
people are
based
part
on
of
a
it.
sexual preference for you.
I don't join the movement. I'm not part of the movement. If that's what you're.
Light spectrum.
All right.
Yeah,
We're talking about the biblical stuff, right?
Yeah, we were talking about sin and how I think it's repulsive that babies are sinful and that we have to do
Well, it's
pretend
not that
cannibalism.
babies are sinful. There's a difference between committing sin and being born under sin.
But no, they're not born under sin. Sin is an action and it's a violation of a covenant, right? So Eve and Adam, they weren't supposed to eat the fruit and they ate it, so that's an action, that's a violation of the covenant. So
Well, that's a
Satan wasn't
sin by
supposed
commission.
to be against Satan wasn't supposed to be so against God, but he was, so he was kicked out of heaven. So that could be a violation of his covenant or agreement with God. When Cain whacked Abel, then that's a violation of the covenant where you're supposed to basically value life. And Cain did not value Abel's life. So thus that action was a sin. Babies do not act in a sinful way, but they could inherit the sin of their parents, right?
But was he
That's unfair.
was he commanded not to kill? I mean, did Cain know not to kill?
With Cain and Abel, Cain was told by God literally not to listen to sin. Like, that sin was there and that he was listening to sin and not to do what he was going to go do, and then he went and did it anyways. That's why Cain is the first sinner and not Adam and Eve, because Adam and Eve, when they acted out of ignorance and they did not have the knowledge of good or evil. So if you do not have the knowledge of good or evil, you cannot make the choice between God and sin.
Yeah, Adam was told not
totally
to
agree
eat
with
from
what you
that
just said.
tree.
I
Anyway,
totally agree with that.
there's also some very, very
It was
fine
trickery.
implication in the covenants, and then also there's some things that aren't even mentioned, but people will do things, and a lot of times retroactively there will be an assumption from Yahweh that, oh wait, no, you shouldn't have done that, or I didn't like that, so that way you violated the covenant because you made me unhappy. A lot of it
Yeah.
comes from vibes from Yahweh.
I don't think any of it makes sense. To be honest, I think the whole thing is silly.
What she said about not knowing, right? What I would say is that, pure source, pure coherence, right? Pure light has no contrast, right? And so, like you can't see anything because there's no contrast. Now, there is no good and evil, really. There's just contrast. There's just our ability to see the difference between things, or feel things and feel emotions.
And who's making them contracts, though?
What?
It's God, the source of morality, right?
So contrast.
Is this
Like,
biblical?
Contrast, not a contract.
Yeah,
You're
not a
saying there's
contract.
wait,
what I mean
Bama,
is that
you said there's
if
no
you're pure
evil?
coherence, right? Then you can't see anything. If you're pure light, right? It would just be white. You wouldn't be able to see anything. So you have to create contrast.
That's why when you agree to the contract, though, right? You're supposed to agree to the goodwill of God.
What I'm saying is that you separated from God in order to see contrast, because you are God you're basically God experiencing itself. The reason that we're here is that we're just
Adam and Eve could have eaten that fruit, right? For that contrast.
Yeah, you have to, because otherwise, how do we have ups and downs? What I'm saying is
Well,
that
then
your
why would
life-
God say don't do it?
Well, but what I'm saying is that if you have your life itself experiences ups and downs, if it was only going in one direction, you wouldn't have any contrast. You wouldn't have any way to know what you like and what you don't like.
I don't agree with that. I mean, I don't have to eat poop to enjoy ice cream, right?
Well, there's two types of
realm. Guys, heaven and the celestial realm were fine as they were. Someone defied it, that being Lucifer. Lucifer left, right? So then we have Eden. Eden is a realm that works on itself. Somebody went against the agreement there, and then so it expanded from Eden to the world we know now. And so there you have the contrast. Now, you don't have to do horrible things to understand it. However, somebody did do the horrible violation in Eden of eating the fruit of good and evil. And then we have people who continue to do that. That's how it is in the biblical system.
What I'm also saying is, like, people that are, let's say people that are much more privileged than you, or are rich and never had to experience the things that you experience, right? I mean, that's a contrast. I mean, that these people had, like I have this, I had the experience. I didn't grow up with millions of dollars like these other people or whatever. See, they don't see that. So you're experiencing something different than them. That's contrast.
Yeah, but this is kind of a privileged position too. I mean, this is not true for all of human history. I mean, most human lives are lived in small local groups, and then they die without knowing a lot of contrast. So, I mean, it's not true universally, right?
Well, no, I mean, it is true universally. I would say that now we're a more connected world, so we understand that there's a lot more people out there that have less privilege than us. But really, this really comes down to, like, because privilege itself, like, you're born into it. Like, you don't choose it.
Right.
And so, that's like, people get that wrong all the time, because they talk about, like, racism and these other things. It's really a privileged conversation. You can't argue privilege.
But the reason why I brought that up is because you were talking about how you need the contrast, and I'm assuming you were tying that back to the allegory of the tree of the good and evil, and why the falling away was
What
necessary.
I'm saying is that that's where the free will came from, because you have to experience the free will in order to experience the contrast, in order to learn through your journey through life.
But why learn? Why learn? What are we learning?
Because life is the richness, meaning, that when people say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Like, that's really what it's saying, is that, life is the contrast.
I feel like that's opposite of learning.
It's where you're going. It's where you're going back. When people talk going back to God, like the more that you know yourself through your own life, right, and the ups and downs that you have, that's the journey.
You know what I think is more interesting than Adam and Eve is babies having sin.
That's crazy to think that.
Well,
people
but there again, I made a clarification on that. The baby itself is not committing sin.
But is that biblical, or are you saying that? Because doesn't it say in the Bible they're born in sin?
Yeah.
They are born under sin, not in sin, under sin.
Yeah.
It's because their blood, is, like I said, sin is passed down from generation to generation to generation.
What do you mean by that? What does that mean? What do you mean when you say it's passed down? Yeah, I want to know what you're talking about there.
I spent 6 months studying and like deep diving into what is sin, and that's why I can say that sin is not an action; it's a thing.
Is this like an STD?
No.
Like, can I get a vaccine or a transfusion?
Like brought down through blood.
You know, we have to remember in Genesis that it's and like I said, forgive me, I'm in my second year of Parkinson's, and my recall is very poor. So I may not be able to tell you specifically where something is in the Bible, but I can tell you that it is in there. Um, but the Bible talks about how when that sickness is a byproduct of sin, and when they sinned, that sickness entered into the blood. And as every generation, the seed is in the man. The seed comes from the man. And that seed, when that seed is passed on from one generation to the other, the sins of that father is passed on to his progeny.
I called it. It's an STD. I called it. I knew it. I knew it.
But then that person, not only did they receive the sins of their father, when they also commit sin, that sin becomes a part of their blood. And then when they pass their seed on to their next generation, it's scientifically it's called DNA entropy. That's how you see that, Adam and Eve, lived.
Is this a real thing?
Years.
Yeah. Both sightings asked the question. I really want to ask this question. So, yeah, this is in the chat. Someone said this. Can you find it in the blood? Like, is this real? Like, can we look and see it in the blood, like with a microscope? I don't mean to be pedantic, but it's kind of what you're saying.
It's a spiritual thing.
Come on.
Observe spirit under the microscope.
What does that mean?
We have to accept that there is a spiritual realm around us.
No, we don't. Why? No, I don't. Why would I have to accept that?
Life itself is spiritual.
Says what? What do you mean? What does that mean? Dragons? What'd you say?
No, I'm. It's what about the giants? So in the original Genesis, angels come down from heaven, have families with the daughters of Adam and Eve, and that creates the giants. And then the giants also are still reproducing with the humans on the planet as well.
Oh my
so
goodness.
if it's following through a bloodline, what about all of the bloodlines that were created by giants? Because we even know after the flood, the giants were still there. So
can I see, like through like 23andMe? Like, can I see how much Nephilim I am in my blood? Like am I like 20% Nephilim or like 15% Nephilim?
It's actually a theory that that you can find the Nephilim with the RH factor.
Is that like Neanderthal? Because I am probably a little bit, maybe like 5%.
Yeah, if I can re-find it, there's a whole giant study on somebody went through and connected the different Homo sapiens and Neanderthals and the Denisovans.
Denisovans, perhaps. Is that the Nephilim? Is that what that is?
Denisovans are not Nephilim. No.
In the first Native American. Does that make me Nephilim?
Spirit.
Yes.
And
millennial knows Denisovans.
Spirit and humans cannot procreate. It is not possible.
Well, the Apocrypha says they can.
The Bible talks about the sons of men, the sons of God went unto the daughters of men. It's talking about the believers. Okay, the sons of God are the believers, and there was, God was very specific when He told Israelite, "Do not take unto yourself the daughters of all these nations, these defiled nations." He was very clear on that. And when it talks about giants, they weren't giants in stature; they were giants of evil. And it goes right into talking about Boaz, I think it was his name, or Nimrod rather, and how he was a hunter of men. The men he hunted were believers. Okay, so you're getting all this stuff out of the book of Enoch, and that's another subject. There was no written language at the time of Enoch, so Enoch could not have ever written a book, and that book didn't really show up until like 300 to 200
No,
AD
you had
or something like that.
Sumerian, which predates Hebrew, though.
Yeah, but this
but
is
still,
all
there was no written language in the days of Enoch.
okay. So if
Enoch could have never written a book.
That's how you get the Code of Hammurabi.
but
written
this
in
is
Sumerian.
this is
The
mythology,
Bible is just an oral tradition
right?
that's been
Yeah,
written down into
it's
a
an oral
language
tradition.
that they revived.
Okay, but this
So
is
we
all
don't
really
actually know.
speculative. What we do have, though, is film evidence that Nicolas Cage existed.
I was gonna ask,
Procreation.
did Nicolas
And
Cage
let
do
me
any
tell you,
movies
you
with
might
giants?
say I don't procreate, but I can definitely try because Nicolas Cage is a very handsome man. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm starting to think instead of it being 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, it's 7 degrees of Nicolas Cage here.
I believe that
But
he's going to be Spider-Man. I'm so excited for that.
Really?
is there a new Spider-Man
Yes,
coming out?
yes, Nicolas
He
Cage.
keeps resurrecting.
He's
Don't
doing
you
a
guys
Spider-Man
understand?
movie.
This is one person with many identities. You see?
It's not his final form.
Right. So it proves that we can have
Spider
different
Noir.
identities. Nicolas Cage is our rabbi showing us the way. Anyway, Apostate, I just wanted to kind of stop in. I really appreciate whatever it is you're doing here, and thank you for letting me speak. Remember, Nicolas Cage is watching, and this is why I will be watching Season of the Witch shortly after this. Good movie.
Oh
with
my
Nicolas
gosh.
Cage.
Thank you for being
Good
here,
night.
Phoenix. I
Have a
appreciate
good one,
you.
brother.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Um,
So, and like I said, I'm simply, I'm not trying to talk anybody out of anything. I'm simply, saying that, from
You're
my
fine.
study of the Bible and understanding the spiritual realm versus the senses realm and, how procreation actually works,
I'm just trying to understand it
spirit
in.
and the flesh cannot procreate. So
Yeah, I
all
think the
that's
spirit
just a
thing.
bunch of, stuff that, like I said, most of it comes from the Book of Enoch, and I don't necessarily accept the Book of Enoch because there are counterfeits out there. There are writings that our sole purpose are to detract and take away from God's will for mankind and to confuse and blur lines.
The oldest Christian church on the planet teaches the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilee.
What
Is
does
that
that
the
mean,
Ethiopian?
though? What a big deal. Whoopee,
Yeah,
The
most
oldest church
unaltered
doesn't
Bible.
make them right.
Yeah, but they
And as
they were
far as the
all.
Bible, the
is
Bible came
there.
from holy men of God as they were moved by Spirit to write the things that God gave them.
So did the
revelation.
Bhagavad Gita. So did the Book of
There is
Mormon.
no possible way that man by himself could have written the Bible.
And then the same goes
Study
for the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Yeah, Zoroastrianism, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. What other books are there? There's channeled books like the Book of Ra. There's a book called Seth Speaks. These are channeled works. So if I'm going to grant the Bible on that condition, I grant like 1,000 other books, and then I'm lost.
Yeah,
You know,
who are they channeling?
The original.
probably
There's two
demons.
sources of knowledge. Who were they channeling? Is the question you have to ask.
Well, I mean, the question stands for who channeled Moses. Like that's the same question. Like, who, this is oral tradition. I think it's worse in the Bible because we know it was oral tradition. We know these things were passed down, and we're not even sure if Moses was a real person. And
How
that's
do we know that? The Bible
well, we
says of itself that holy men spake as they were moved by Holy Spirit.
well, you said it
They
yourself. I
wrote.
mean, the Bible says it.
It's
That's
called revelation from God. They wrote what they were instructed to write by God.
yeah, but that's because the book says that. So that's it's begging the
I
question.
make the same argument about almost all of like known history at this point, outside of standardization that happened around 1950. All history books written before 1950 are considered subjective accounts of history. There's no actual. They can't
Tartaria.
even agree. They can't even agree on when the Berlin Wall fell, and that happened in modern era.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
we'd have.
I would say that you could describe pretty much all of our history. I mean, the way it was written. I call it the two-dick history, right? Because it was all written by men, and there was always one dick and then another dick fighting each other right now.
My gosh. Yes.
And just looked at like the original writings of the Vikings.
Right.
You would think that the Vikings were savages and these like bloodthirsty warrior men who had no homes and had no land coming and just being mean to England. And in reality, the Vikings had their own economy, their own markets, their houses, they had blacksmiths, they had towns. And if you just went off of the original writings about the Vikings, you wouldn't think that.
Well, the two dicks that wrote it.
Well, they just didn't have written language, so you had one.
Well, no, but you had two dicks because usually it's one dick fighting another dick, and then the winning dick writes the.
Exactly, the war god, and then we have the Egyptian writings. It's like, which one? Where do we stop?
Well, and there's also like Josephus's writings where he writes about a giant battle in Jerusalem and how like 2,500 men were ended that day. And we've been able to find the fort, dig it up. The ramp is real. Like the ramp that the Romans made, that we assume the Romans made, is real. But there's no evidence that 2,500 men died at all. Like the whole history of that site. It's impossible. Like the amount of people. So it's all about who was the victor writing the history books.
Oh yeah, the victor go the spoils. But it's like when you watch the news, right? Like how much other news is happening besides what's on the news?